Chapter 149. Lin Yuan had been having a headache over the upgrade of red thorn's quality. He did not expect that this insectide would actually solve this problem that had been troubling him for a long time. Since bronze red thorn's quality had already reached epic, the only way to advance from epic to legendary was to devour the flesh and blood of dimensional creatures and work hard to accumulate. Although the passage of time was often untraceable, time could solve many problems by the passage of time. At that moment, Xianxia suddenly whispered to Lin Yuan. The Ascending Dragon City's Ascending Dragon Guards are already in charge of the situation, and the Ascending Dragon Guards will be in charge of the Millstone townspeople. We should quickly slip away now. Otherwise, when the reporters from the Ascending Dragon City come to interview us, we won't be able to leave without a day or two. At this point, Xianxia suddenly paused. Xianxia didn't continue speaking because she knew she had made a slip of the tongue the moment she said it. To anyone, they had resisted a pinnacle level 1 insect horde and protected a small town by themselves. If he were to accept an interview on the Star Web, he would undoubtedly become famous and receive widespread attention. Xianxia did not care about this because she felt that it was unwise to protect Millstone Town in such a situation. But it was a glorious choice. From Xianxia's point of view, if she wanted to be famous, she had to improve her strength and show off her skills in the S tournament. Although Xianxia, who understood the ways of the world, had already recognized Lin Yuan as a friend in her heart, she was a little embarrassed that she seemed to be unintentionally making decisions for Lin Yuan. Zhang Xiaobai didn't think of that. At that moment, she carelessly hugged Lin Yuan's shoulder and said, "Don't worry. Pa, that's right, let's go. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to." Xianxia was just about to pull Zhang Xiaobai when she heard Lin Yuan's soft voice. "The endless forest is in front of us. Let's go. Our original plan was to collect the venom of the gold jade unicorn ice snake early in the morning." Lin Yuan's words were indifferent, but there was an indescribable refreshing and unrestrained feeling. Lin Yuan had never been a person who cared about fame and fortune. On the contrary, having lived 2 lifetimes, Lin Yuan looked at everything with a dialectical eye. Apart from the things that he truly cared about, everything else was very indifferent. Things like fame and fortune in a world where strength reigns supreme. Although fame and fortune could not be equated with strength, having strength was almost equivalent to having fame and fortune. If strength was compared to a flower and fame was compared to a butterfly, then when the flower bloomed, the butterfly would naturally come. To Lin Yuan, the Radiance 100 sequence was his next best choice. Speaking with strength was the choice of a real man. Lin Yuan looked at the blazing sun that accompanied the dawn. The light emitted by the rising sun seemed to be even more dazzling than the scorching noon sun. At that moment, a slight spiritual fluctuation came from Lin Yuan's body. It was so subtle that even Zhang Xiaobai, who had put his hand on Lin Yuan's shoulder, did not feel it. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath, which was lying on the face storage box, moved slightly and felt its mouth sting even more. This kid is really lucky. He comprehended a willpower rune so quickly after sensing his own Luo rune. However, the mother of Bloodbath immediately thought about it. Lin Yuan already had a fantasy breed Jasmine Lily, so this willpower rune should be the second one. The mother of Bloodbath attributed the credit of Lin Yuan comprehending this willpower rune mainly to the moment when it became his path protector and let Lin Yuan feel its Luo rune energy. Of course, Lin Yuan's sudden comprehension of this willpower rune was indeed related to the mother of Bloodbath's Luo rune he had felt at that time. However, if the mother of Bloodbath knew that Lin Yuan had comprehended the 4th willpower rune, it would probably change its name to the mother of lemons out of jealousy. Lin Yuan's eyes seemed to rise with the clearest light of dawn, and this glowing willpower rune appeared in Lin Yuan's spiritual world. When he comprehended this willpower rune, Lin Yuan already had a preference. This willpower rune was very suitable for Chime. Lin Yuan looked at the rising sun in the morning, and the face behind the mask suddenly revealed a smile that no one could see but was enough to overshadow the blazing sun. He was a youth. In his weak state, he had always been stepping on the dust. He staggered, stood and ran. Whether it was struggling to survive at a low place or calmly at a high place, he had never forgotten the epiphany in his heart. At this moment, the dim light dispersed the last bit of dust in the broken footsteps. As for him, having lived 2 lives, he had always been unrestrained. When Xianxia, Zhang Xiaobai, Lu Pinru and Tan Ran heard his refreshing and carefree words, they could not help but smile. If they had a good impression of each other, they would become friends. They had experienced life and death together and they were comrades in arms. In this kind of situation, if their interests were completely congenial, then they would be inseparable friends. Zhang Xiaobai gave Lin Yuan a thumbs up. Lin Yuan, you were so cool when you said that earlier. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaobai's comical movements with his fingers and his strange expression, Lin Yuan could not help but laugh. Is it cool? Perhaps. Actually, in Lin Yuan's heart, it was always the coolest to be his own people. Lin Pinru rolled his eyes at Zhang Xiaobai. Can you stop showing off the results of your Yen E cram school? Exaning looked at Zhang Xiaobai and felt really helpless. After last year's S tournament, there was a 1-month vacation. He had wanted to go on a vacation with the team. In the end, Zhang Xiaobai had actually signed up for the tutoring class, saying that he wanted to learn a specialty. Zhang Xiaobai felt aggrieved and pouted. Is it wrong to learn a specialty? Lin Yuan could not help but ask. Is there anyone who wants to learn a specialty? Zhang Xiaobai felt even more aggrieved as he blinked his eyes. My Yenny got a certificate. Lin Yuan and the quartet quietly left the land under Millstone Town's city wall, which they had defended last night, and headed for the endless forest at dawn. In fact, what Lin Yuan and the quartet of Extreme Guild Club members did not know was that everyone present had already seen their departure. He had defended Millstone Town against the Pinnacle Class 1 insect tide alone and healed everyone at the most critical moment. Putting aside the fact that he was a prodigy and would definitely be in the center of everyone's eyes, just Lin Yuan's life-saving grace made it hard for the people who had experienced the massacre outside Millstone Town to look away from him. The moment Lin Yuan and the Extreme Guild Club's quartet left, the burly leader of the Ascending Dragon Guards, the Millstone Town's Guild Alliance branch president, and everyone in Millstone Town stood there quietly, sincerely watching the hero leave. This was the hero's choice. The hero had tried his best to persuade the fierce tide, but he had always retreated lightly and was unwilling to leave his name. The Millstone Town's Guild Alliance branch president felt that the morning sun was especially dazzling. It was unknown whether it was because of the glare of the morning sun or the agitation in his heart. 2 lines of hot tears flowed from his eyes as he softly said, "Outstanding young man." When the bald leader of the Ascending Dragon Guards heard the words of the Millstone Town's Guild Alliance branch president, he solemnly bowed in the direction where Lin Yuan and the others had left. This is more than just outstanding young man. This is Huey's spirit, Huey's backbone. Baidu immediately read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw bookstore for free. Chapter 150. The mountains and rivers were tranquil and birds, beasts, fish and insects were dormant. While walking in the endless forest, Lin Yuan felt that the air was especially fresh. This freshness didn't refer to the spirit qi content, but the fragrance of the grass, trees and soil in the endless forest's air. At that moment, Lin Yuan found a thumb-sized dragonfly on a birch tree that was nearly 20 meters tall. This dragonfly's entire body was red, and its wings were a light green color. When Lin Yuan saw this dragonfly's appearance, he recognized that it should be a normal mist flame dragonfly that had just been born. The mist flame dragonfly was a fae with great potential but was very rare. Along the way, Lin Yuan had encountered plenty of normal and elite faes, and this mist flame dragonfly was the one with the best aptitude among all the faes that Lin Yuan had encountered so far. The fae's aptitude didn't refer to the fae's strength at its grade, but its evolution potential during the evolution process. The mist flame dragonfly was a wind-type and fire-type dual-type fae with extremely high evolution potential. It was considered one of the faes with stronger wind and fire energy after the spirituality mutation among the offense-type faes. Wind helped the fire, and wind had always been the best partner of fire. Upon seeing this mist flame dragonfly with extraordinary aptitude, Lin Yuan naturally wouldn't miss it. He carefully approached the mist flame dragonfly, and when his palm was still a distance away from it, Lin Yuan quickly circulated the spiritual power in his body to let the mist flame dragonfly feel the pure spiritual power from Lin Yuan's palm. The pure spirit qi that Lin Yuan released from his palm only stopped for a moment. The mist flame dragonfly sensed Lin Yuan's release of spirit qi and immediately flew toward him. At that moment, the mist flame dragonfly was already standing obediently on Lin Yuan's fingertip. It wasn't afraid of people at all and was gently flapping its wings as though it was begging Lin Yuan to release more spirit qi. This scene made the Extreme Guild Club's quartet dumbfounded. It wasn't that Xin Ying, Zhang Xiaobai and the others had never seen other creation masters harvesting in the wild, but who could make a wild fae develop a favorable impression like Lin Yuan? Zhang Xiaobai suddenly muttered at that moment. Could it be that good looks can make fays feel close to me? If that's the case, then all the fays in the endless forest should be surrounding me now. Xin Ying couldn't help but hold her forehead with her hand. Although it felt good to beat Zhang Xiaobai, it was too tiring to keep beating him. So Xin Ying took out a knuckle blade from her backpack and wore it on her hand. Zhang Xiaobai instantly became obedient. At that moment, Lin Yuan stored the normal mist flame dragonfly into the fae storage box. They continued on their way. After walking for a few hours, it was already noon. Lin Yuan had already harvested a few fays with greater potential. If these fays were properly nurtured, they could be nurtured into powerful fays that were hard to come by. At lunchtime, they sat on the ground and ate the dry rations prepared by Lu Pinru. Zhang Xiaobai said while chewing on his rations. If I had known earlier, I would have bought a few dozen skewers of kidney this morning. Eating kidney skewers at this time is really delicious. Xin Ying glared at Zhang Xiaobai and waved the knuckle blade on her hand. Zhang Xiaobai immediately changed his words. I'm talking about big kidneys so that I'll have more strength after eating them. Otherwise, how am I supposed to block in front of you and help you take damage? Lu Pinru could not help but roll her eyes at Zhang Xiaobai. You're just lusting after its body. Despicable. Zhang Xiaobai was unwilling. Is it because your kidneys aren't fat enough? Or was the taste of the kidney not good enough? What's wrong with me lusting after her body? Lin Yuan was eating his rations. When he had entered the endless forest, he had already taken off his mask. When Lin Yuan saw that everyone was almost done eating, he flipped his hand. He took out the fruits that he had stored in the leaf-shaped fae storage box and distributed them to everyone. When Zhang Xiaobai saw the fruit, he hurriedly threw the dry food in his hand to the side and gnawed on the fruit. Zhang Xiaobai felt the sweet and sour fruit pulp in his mouth. So high. He had reached the peak of his life. When adventuring in the wild, having a creation master in the team would greatly reduce the probability of wild fays attacking. Lin Yuan and the Extreme Guild Club's quartet had also been attacked a few times. However, with Xin Ying and Tan Ran attacking, Zhang Xiaobai defending, Lu Pinru assisting and Lin Yuan healing, the battle quickly ended. At the same time, Lin Yuan and the Extreme Guild Club's quartet had also obtained plenty of fresh spiritual ingredients. Zhang Xiaobai walked in the endless forest and suddenly had an idea. He looked at everyone and asked mysteriously. A woman giving birth is an idiom. Xin Ying, Lu Pinru and Tan Ran couldn't be bothered with Zhang Xiaobai. Zhang Xiaobai hurriedly turned his head to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked at Zhang Xiaobai's expectant gaze and pondered for a moment. Unbearably painful. Zhang Xiaobai seemed to be waiting for Lin Yuan to say this answer as he laughed heartily. You're slandering me. Lin Yuan revealed a pretty boy's puzzled expression. Lin Yuan didn't have many friends in this life, and he hadn't had many opportunities to make friends in order to survive in the past. Lin Yuan had always felt that he was a person whose friendship with a gentleman was as indifferent as water. However, after getting along with Zhang Xiaobai, Lin Yuan felt that this kind of nonsensical style was exceptionally interesting. Lin Yuan and the Extreme Guild Club's quartet collected the Jade Unicorn Ice Snake's venom without much difficulty. At the same time, Lin Yuan also found a few small fish in the cold pool where the Jade Unicorn Ice Snake resided. Upon seeing these small fish, Lin Yuan recognized their species at a glance. Lin Yuan didn't expect such good things to appear in such a place. He planned to bring these small fish back and slowly nurture them. Lin Yuan hurriedly placed these small fish in a container filled with pool water and carefully stored them in the diamond face storage box. At that moment, Lin Yuan's wild harvest was considered to have officially ended. Lin Yuan might not have harvested a lot of fays this time, but each of them was considered to be of excellent quality. There were also 3 small fish that he had found in the cold pool at the end. These 3 small fish were truly top-notch. On the way back, Lin Yuan didn't go back to the royal capital with the quartet. Before returning to the royal capital, Lin Yuan planned to go to Redbud City's Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy to see Zhou Xian. At the same time, he wanted to give the normal dust powder butterfly that had hatched from the cocoon to the bronze Vidra butterfly as Zhou Xi's second fae to form a contract. The silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that Lin Yuan had left behind for Zhou Xian was still with him. Lin Yuan planned to bring it along for Zhou Xian to consume. Such a treasure could improve the physique and wash away impurities. The earlier Zhou Xian used it, the better. Lin Yuan exchanged contact information with the Extreme Guild Club's quartet and arranged to have a small gathering after returning to the royal capital. After arriving at Ascending Dragon City, Lin Yuan and the quartet parted ways. Then Lin Yuan spent a large number of Radiance dollars to order a Platinum Flying Fae, Divine Travel Black Swallow. The Divine Travel Black Swallow had the fastest flying speed among all the official flying fays in the Radiance Federation, and it was worthy of the name Divine Travel. Lin Yuan had ordered this Divine Travel Black Swallow because the distance between Ascending Dragon City and Redbud City was simply too far. At that time, Ling Zhao's fantasy breed Blue Jade Pegasus had taken a few days to fly from Redbud City to the royal capital. If Lin Yuan were to fly from Ascending Dragon City to Redbud City on a Silver Fae, Zhou Xi's 2-month semester would have already ended by the time he arrived. When Lin Yuan was on the back of this Platinum Divine Travel Black Swallow, he did not know that his identity Black was already famous on Star Web. Although Lin Yuan did not accept the Star Web reporter's interview, every spirit chi professional in Millstone Town was a witness to Black. As the people outside Millstone Town described Black's image and abilities, the Star Web reporters that rushed over gradually had some clues. Previously, no one had thought that Black's Fae was a fantasy breed. After all, a silver fantasy breed was simply too shocking. However, after the Star Web reporters contacted a 3-star scholar to research it. In addition, the people in Millstone Town had described in detail that Black's silver healing type Fae could regrow severed limbs. In the end, it was confirmed that Black's healing type Fae was a silver fantasy breed. The Radiance Federation was a nation that worshipped heroes, so Lin Yuan's identity, Black, immediately became popular on Star Web. He even had a dedicated Star Web Tieba and Star Web fan group on Star Web. Black's Star Web forum and fan group were actually created by the bronze spirit chi professional who owned the spitting turtle dove. Moreover, almost everyone in Millstone Town, including the president of the Guild Alliance branch, had joined Black's Star Web forum and fan group. There were also many people who came because of Black's deeds, causing Black's Star Web forum and fan group to grow day by day. Of course, there were also many haters among them. At that moment, Lu Lang, the healing-type spirit chi professional who owned the spitting turtle dove, was furiously replying to the post on Star Web. Lu Lang was truly infuriated when someone scolded his life idol and savior, Black. How can you casually scold a genius hero like Black? Lu Lang could not help but curse. These haters are really annoying. They swallow their anger in reality and don't dare to insult others, enduring humiliation for the greater good. But on Star Web, casually scolding netizens and in high spirits. Don't blame me, Lu Lang, for being impolite to such haters. Lu Lang read with a solemn expression. The heavens didn't give birth to a keyboard warrior, spewing like a long night for eternity, the pinnacle of immortals looking down on the world. With my keyboard there will be heaven. I will suppress all enemies for the keyboard emperor. Who dares to call themselves invincible in the world? Who dares to say he is undefeatable? The key transforms into my heart. The big board key comes from the heavens. The rushing flow key never returns. When the yin and yang reversal arrives, I will use my magic key to clear the heavens. Great creation key. Key comes. From then on, Lu Lang's Star Web name was Zhuan. Under Lu Lang's crazy operation, the Star Web name Zhuan also became popular, and countless Star Web netizens called him Zhuan Maniac. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 151. Lin Yuan sat on the Divine Travel Black Swallow's back and couldn't help but complain. It was fine if the Divine Travel Black Swallow wasn't comfortable, but it was also uncomfortable. The Divine Travel Black Swallow was rather small and very light. Most of its long feathers were concentrated on its wings, and there was only a thin layer of feathers on its back. In fact, the reason why the Divine Travel Black Swallow wasn't comfortable was because of its fast speed. There were many types of flying fays that could be booked in the Radiance Federation. The Divine Travel Black Swallow might not be comfortable, but it was definitely the most popular flying fay. The distance between the Radiance Federation's major cities was too far, and it could save some travel time. Therefore, the discomfort could be ignored. When Lin Yuan had booked the Divine Travel Black Swallow on Star Web, He had also looked at other platinum flying fays that could be booked. Among them, the most expensive and comfortable flying fae was the orchid fragrance swan. The orchid fragrance swan's demeanor was extremely elegant. Its slender goose neck and spacious back wings gave it a very elegant feeling. Its body was covered with goose yellow feathers with a hint of pink, and it was filled with a kind of romantic flavor. The orchid fragrance swan's body was accompanied by many goose feather orchids, and they smelled very good. The goose language orchid's fragrance was a faint orchid fragrance with a sweet fruit fragrance. When smelling it, it gave off a kind of elegant and sweet feeling. At the same time, the goose language orchid was also a kind of extremely valuable platinum spiritual ingredient. It was the main fragrance of a high-end perfume that was widely loved by female spirit chi professionals. Furthermore, the orchid fragrance swan's pink feathers were extremely silky, and it felt as though one was sliding one's hand into a large piece of silk. The platinum orchid fragrance swan was very comfortable and elegant, but no matter how rich spirit chi professionals were, they wouldn't ride on the orchid fragrance swan. The orchid fragrance swan's flying speed was simply too slow, and it couldn't even compare to some silver fays that were adept at flying. Therefore, the orchid fragrance swan was the best choice for spirit chi professionals with rich family backgrounds to go on their honeymoon after they got married. If someone really rode on the orchid fragrance swan to settle some urgent matters, it would be too late by the time the orchid fragrance swan arrived. Lin Yuan sat on the divine travel black swallow's back and straightened his body. Since it would take a few days to travel from Ascending Dragon City to Redbud City, Lin Yuan checked the thumb-sized, translucent, egg-shaped source-type life-form that the Mother of Bloodbath thought it was lucky to have obtained from the Pinnacle Class 1 alien insect dimensional rift. With a wave of his hand, he took out the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box. As a result, Lin Yuan used true data to check and realized that this Pinnacle Class 1 dimensional rift's prototype life-form was really an insect egg. However, when Lin Yuan used true data to check this prototype insect egg, he felt something strange. He finally understood why the Mother of Bloodbath had said that this insect egg was very suitable for Red Thorn and that it had picked up a huge bargain. Inside this translucent egg was an acid corrosion queen bee that was still in the form of an egg. As a source-type life form, the acid corrosion queen bee's contract conditions were undoubtedly very harsh. The acid corrosion queen bee was a kind of parasitic source-type life form and needed to parasitize other phase or source-type life forms to survive. At the same time, the body of the parasitized Fey or source-type life form must have an extremely acidic environment because only such an environment could allow the acid corrosion queen bee to grow healthily. The acid corrosion queen bee usually had to eat a large amount of acid from the parasitized Fey or source-type life form as a source of nutrition to maintain its life. Therefore, there were not many suitable phase or source-type life forms for the acid corrosion queen bee to parasitize. After breaking out of the egg, the acid corrosion queen bee would immediately build a nest in its own acidic environment. During the process of building the nest, the acid corrosion queen bee would absorb a large amount of acid and energy from the host body. After building the nest, the acid corrosion queen bee would sign a contract with the host Fey or source-type life form. After signing the contract, the acid corrosion queen bee would protect the host Fey or source-type life form. It would worship the host Fey or source-type life form as the only god in its world. The acid corrosion queen bee would completely listen to all the instructions of the host Fey or source-type life form. Lin Yuan couldn't help but be speechless. This acid corrosion queen bee and red thorn were really a perfect match. Most source-type life forms and Feys would generally only have a strong acidic environment at the place of digestion. If the acid corrosion queen bee wanted to build a nest, then small source-type life forms and Feys would have to be eliminated. But even so, animal Feys and source-type life forms with strong acidic bodies were undoubtedly not suitable for the acid corrosion queen bee. Be it Feys or source-type life forms, if the acid corrosion queen bee built a nest in the stomach was the digestive system and the foundation for animal Feys and source-type life forms to absorb energy. If the acid corrosion queen bee absorbed a large amount of acid and energy in the stomach, the animal Feys and source-type life forms' roots would probably be damaged in a few days. But red thorn was different, as it almost perfectly matched the acid corrosion queen bee's conditions. When red thorn's mouth of relinquish evolved to the bronze/epic quality, it had already become a flesh furnace. A large amount of alien insect flesh could be easily digested and devoured, and Red Thorn's digestive fluid had devoured the acid in the acid corrosion tapeworm's body. Although he did not dare to say that Red Thorn's acid was definitely stronger than the acid corrosion tapeworm's, it was already to the extent that it could corrode sand. Such a powerful acid could help the acid corrosion queen bee's growth. Moreover, the acid corrosion queen bee needed a large amount of energy and acid to build a nest, so it wasn't a problem for Red Thorn. Red Thorn's mouth of relinquish carried an extremely strong digestive ability, and the dozen or so digestive cavities on its ortet were mainly used to store excess acid. If the mouth of relinquish needed to replenish acid, the digestive cavities would flow the stored acid back into the mouth of relinquish. However, Red Thorn devoured a large amount of alien insects' flesh and energy every day. The alien insects' blood contained a lot of acid, so Red Thorn's digestive fluid was a little too abundant. With such abundant digestive fluid, the digestive cavities always needed to spit out a large amount of acid. Now Red Thorn only needed to give the acid corrosion queen bee a digestive cavity on its ortet. If the acid corrosion queen bee needed energy, Red Thorn could devour more dimensional lifeforms' flesh to cope. To Lin Yuan, the acid corrosion queen bee's advantage was that he didn't need to use his remaining trace of spiritual energy to sign a contract. As a parasitic lifeform in Red Thorn's body, the acid corrosion queen bee would sign a contract with Red Thorn, so it could command the acid corrosion queen bee at will. As a source seed that was connected to Lin Yuan by blood, there was no difference between Red Thorn commanding the acid corrosion queen bee and Lin Yuan commanding the acid corrosion queen bee himself. However, due to this parasitic relationship, the acid corrosion queen bee had not signed a contract with Lin Yuan, so he couldn't provide the acid corrosion queen bee with a willpower rune. If the acid corrosion queen bee wanted to evolve into a fantasy breed, it could only take the path of a wild fae reaching the pinnacle of diamond and legend before comprehending the willpower rune on its own. Fortunately, the acid corrosion queen bee wasn't like Red Thorn, which couldn't be enhanced by Lin Yuan, so it wasn't difficult for it to reach legend. As for whether the acid corrosion queen bee could comprehend the willpower rune and become a fantasy breed, it would depend on the acid corrosion queen bee's talent. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 152. As fays that grew freely in the wild, the most difficult thing was to improve their quality. In fact, there were many fays that grew freely in the wild. Even if they reached platinum, they would only be at elite. When they reached diamond, they would only be at flawless. It took a long time for wild fays to improve their quality or encounter great opportunities. This was why creation masters could use all kinds of spiritual ingredients to concoct spirit liquids to attract wild fays. This was because the spirit fluid that was concocted with various spiritual ingredients contained pure spirit chi. Pure spirit chi was something that wild fays yearned for. After all, there was no life form that did not want to evolve and improve its quality. This instinct to continuously evolve was the cornerstone of the grand poem of life in the history of life, the evolution of species, and the formation of thousands of life. This instinct for evolution had long been engraved in the depths of every fae's soul since birth. Therefore, creation masters who possessed evolved fays to upgrade their fays' grade and quality would receive preferential treatment from wild fays. Although the acid corrosion queen bee was a source-type lifeform, it could not be said to be a true fae. However, the acid corrosion queen bee was destined to embark on this difficult path. Fortunately, this difficulty could be easily resolved due to Lin Yuan's existence. When the acid corrosion queen bee reached bronze, it could be upgraded to legend with Lin Yuan's help. As for the acid corrosion queen bee's grade, with the increase of Lin Yuan's spirit chi rank and creation master ability, it was only a matter of time before it reached pinnacle diamond. Therefore, there was only one thing that was really difficult for the acid corrosion queen bee: how to comprehend the willpower rune. Lin Yuan was actually happy to see such a situation for the acid corrosion queen bee. The acid corrosion queen bee did not need to fuse with a willpower rune at bronze to evolve into a fantasy breed like Lin Yuan's other fays in order to maximize their potential. Therefore, Lin Yuan could constantly upgrade the acid corrosion queen bee without any scruples. Moreover, the acid corrosion queen bee had not evolved into a fantasy breed, so it was very easy for Lin Yuan to upgrade it. This would undoubtedly make up for Lin Yuan's current lack of high-grade combat power. Given Lin Yuan's current standard as a C-rank spirit chi professional, it was not difficult to rely on his ability to enhance the source-type acid corrosion queen bee to gold. The gold/legend source type acid corrosion queen bee was not much inferior to some pinnacle gold phase that had yet to reach legend. The gold/legend source type acid corrosion queen bee had given him the qualifications to fight for the Radiance 100 sequence. It allowed him to have the combat power to become one of the Radiance Federation's top youths. To Redthorn, the acid corrosion queen bee was more like a tool for Redthorn. Redthorn only needed to provide a digestive cavity for the acid corrosion queen bee, and the acid corrosion queen bee would treat Redthorn as its god and serve it. Strong acidic digestive fluids and energy were nothing to Redthorn. The leaf-shaped Fey storage box that the Moon Empress had given him had enough dimensional lifeforms flesh to feed Redthorn to platinum. The energy required to feed the acid corrosion queen bee with the flesh of these dimensional lifeforms was just a drop in the ocean compared to the energy contained in the leaf-shaped diamond Fey storage box. Redthorn's biggest problem in battle was that Redthorn was adept at quickly starting a battle of attrition. It was an extremely powerful AoE attack method. The gold acid corrosion queen bee perfectly made up for Redthorn's lack of single-target lethality. Redthorn's vines could lethality and control at the same time, which undoubtedly gave the acid corrosion queen bee more opportunities to attack. With the acid corrosion queen bee cooperating with Redthorn and complementing its single-target combat power, Redthorn no longer had an obvious shortcoming. At that moment, Redthorn was truly considered a truly terrifying killing machine. The sea of flowers spread out, and a powerful source-type lifeform was hidden in the sea of vines. The acid corrosion queen bee. The acid corrosion queen bee could perfectly cooperate with Redthorn to carry out sneak attacks on some powerful single-target enemies and kill them. Lin Yuan put the acid corrosion queen bee's egg back into the diamond Fey storage box. It was undoubtedly not suitable to summon Redthorn on the divine travel black swallow's back, so the acid corrosion queen bee's egg could not hatch. Lin Yuan originally just wanted to go to the endless forest for a simple wild harvest. However, along the way he met Zhang Xiaobai, Xining, Lu Pinru and Tan Ran. After experiencing the battle at Millstone Town, he had no choice. At the same time, Lin Yuan also comprehended a twilight willpower rune in the rising sun after the battle. He also harvested a lot of Fays with great potential in the wild. The harvest along the way was really great. If he did not have to see Chu Xiaidao, Lin Yuan would have the intention to enter seclusion. Lin Yuan would probably need to enter seclusion for another month or two before he could completely transform these gains into strength. Chimey had already reached bronze/legend, but due to the lack of a suitable willpower rune, Chimey's grade had been stuck. Now that Chimey finally had a suitable twilight willpower rune, it was imperative for it to evolve into a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan could not help but look forward to what kind of changes Chimey would undergo after fusing with a twilight willpower rune to evolve into a fantasy breed. What kind of exclusive skill would Chimey awaken from this twilight willpower rune? A phase evolution into a fantasy breed had to go through a rebirth. Just by looking at the Jasmine Lily's evolution into a fantasy breed, one could know what kind of improvement it would have for a Fae. Now Lin Yuan finally understood why so many experts liked to enter seclusion. It was because seclusion could allow one to calm down in a relatively undisturbed environment. It could strengthen what one needed to be strong and tidy up what one needed to tidy up. At the same time, it could also clarify the path to take next in seclusion. Lin Yuan had been sitting on the divine travel black swallow's back for the past few days. Overlooking the mountains and rivers under the radiance, he only felt that the mountains and rivers were majestic. The battle at Millstone Town had really made Lin Yuan's heart beat too hard. These few days of relaxation had made Lin Yuan feel refreshed. The divine travel black swallow sent Lin Yuan into Redbud City. After seeing that Lin Yuan had confirmed the order on Star Web, the divine travel black swallow flew away. This trip on the platinum divine travel black swallow had cost a total of 3 radiance dollars. This made Lin Yuan involuntarily have the idea of nurturing a flying fae for transportation. In the Radiance Federation, private flying fays could be nurtured. Ordinary spirit chi professionals needed to sign a contract with the flying fae before they could be registered in the Radiance Federation. Only these flying fays that were registered in the Radiance Federation could apply for a driving certificate. However, there was an exception, and that was Creation Masters. Creation Masters could directly apply for a flying fae driving certificate in the Creation Master Association. Creation Masters could apply for a driving certificate without signing a contract with the fae. However, the prerequisite was that the Creation Master Association had to prove that the Flying Fae was nurtured by the Creation Master himself. In fact, the Radiance Federation was so strict in this aspect because they were afraid that the Flying Fae would lose control during flight and cause some accidents. There were all sorts of Flying Faes that could be ridden by private people, and their grades were generally not low. Such Flying Faes that lost control would be extremely destructive. If the Flying Fae lost control, it would just injure the pilot. If the Flying Fae lost control and injured other innocent people, it would cause a lot of unnecessary disputes. Baidu, read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 153. In fact, flying-type Faes were rather expensive in the Radiance Federation. Especially the rare flying-type Faes that could be ridden. In the Radiance Federation, flying-type Faes that could be ridden weren't just used as a means of transportation. They were also treated as luxurious goods to show off one's status. Lin Yuan walked on the streets of Redbud City and looked at the flourishing Redbud City. Lin Yuan realized that he had a special fate with Redbud City. Every time he came to Redbud City, his state of mind would be different. The first time he came to Redbud City was when he was in a hurry to deliver the bronze rhinoceros iron bowl to Zhou Xian. At that time, Lin Yuan had just recovered his ability to sense spirit qi and discovered his Creation Master abilities. At that time, Lin Yuan had a boundless longing for the future. In Lin Yuan's opinion, he had already set up a new life goal. The second time he came, Lin Yuan had skipped a grade and passed the Creation Master exam, becoming a Class 2 Creation Master. At that moment, Lin Yuan already had the confidence that his path was under his feet. This was also Lin Yuan's third time coming to Redbud City. After experiencing life and death battles, he had a clear view of this world. Lin Yuan had already determined the path he wanted to take in the future. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a hawking voice. Cornbread, $1 for 4. Lin Yuan couldn't help but reveal a bright smile. During his 3 visits, he would see this stall selling cornbread. It was truly fate. Lin Yuan walked up and spent $1 Federation to buy 4 cornbread buns. Lin Yuan picked up a cornbread and bit into it. After eating meals made with high-grade spiritual ingredients in the Radiant Moon Palace for a few months, Lin Yuan realized that his mouth was much more picky than before. A few months ago he felt that the cornbread was rather delicious, but now it was a little hard to swallow. When he swallowed this cornbread that was a little hard to swallow, Lin Yuan felt that it should be changed to thinking of sweetness. In Lin Yuan's opinion, his previous strong self was sweet. Because the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar had washed away all the impurities in his body, Lin Yuan had perfected his genetic model. After washing away all the impurities in his body, Lin Yuan's originally excellent temperament had become even more extraordinary. After washing away all the impurities, Lin Yuan's originally excellent temperament had become even more extraordinary. His bright youthful aura had an indescribable carefreeness that attracted many people's gazes along the way. Previously, Lin Yuan's pearl shone faintly. However, now that he was back at the same place, he was already unparalleled in the world. Before going to the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy where Zhou Xian was, he specially went to the store to buy some fruits. Among these fresh fruits, Lin Yuan had also added some that were unique to Ascending Dragon City's Millstone Town. Fruits that couldn't be bought in Redbud City. Lin Yuan had brought these fruits to Teacher Bao. Whether it was those who had helped him or Zhou Xian when he had been weak, he would remember them in his heart as long as he knew about them. When he arrived at the entrance of the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy, he called Zhou Xian. The call was quickly picked up by Zhou Xian. Lin Yuan, why are you calling me at this time? I just finished training. You don't know how strong this sharp iron horn bull is. Even those seniors can't beat me. When Zhou Xian saw that Lin Yuan was calling her, she started talking. However, Lin Yuan could not help but touch the back of his head. Lin Yuan had a question. Was Zhou Xian done for? I'm a defense-type spirit chi professional. Zhou Xian was simply using the sharp iron horn bull as an offense-type fae. She was actually competing with a senior during the training session. What if she was injured by the senior? Even if Lin Yuan had a free and easy temperament, he could not help but worry about his only blood relative in this world. When Zhou Xian saw that Lin Yuan did not say anything, she immediately knew what the problem was. I'm not trying to improve myself as quickly as possible. Brother, you're already a creation master. If I don't work hard, won't I be left further and further behind by you? When Lin Yuan heard Chu Xi call him brother, he immediately knew that things were not so simple. Chu Xi should have been injured in training. Otherwise, based on their many years of experience of relying on each other, Chu Xi would usually call him brother. Chu Xi usually called him Lin Yuan, but whenever she called him big brother, nothing good would happen. Lin Yuan said hurriedly, "Where are you? I'll go over to find you." On the other end of the line, Chu Xi was delighted at first. Then she glanced at the teacher who was treating her and could not help but stick out her tongue. At that moment, the teacher who was treating Chu Xi spoke. "Chu Xi, the bones in your arm are cracked. My Fei can only treat superficial injuries. You need to recuperate on your own." When the medical teacher opened his mouth, Chu Xi wanted to cover the phone, but Lin Yuan still heard the words fractured bones. Chu Xi could not help but feel guilty. Every time Lin Yuan called her, he would always tell her to be careful and she would always tell him not to worry. However, it seemed that she had been caught. Chu Xi trained very hard. When she had nothing to do, she would train her combat skills with her seniors on the training ground. However, the teacher would treat her every time. This was the first time she had a fractured bone. "Brother, wait for me. I'll pick you up now, but you may have to accompany me to buy some spiritual ingredients to treat bone injuries." Chu Xi glanced at her arm, which was hanging down, and did not dare to use force. She knew that such an injury could not be concealed even if she wanted to. Lin Yuan now had a headache. Chu Xi had been a steady person since she was young. Why did she also become reckless after having the sharp iron horn bull, a defense-type Fei that relied on brute defense? Lin Yuan had always wanted to turn Chu Xi into an iron bucket that no one could break, but he had put it aside. Now Lin Yuan felt that it was necessary to revive this idea. In order to prevent Chu Xi from getting injured again, it was imperative to turn her into an iron bucket. The cocoon of the powder butterfly in Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone had already hatched. The normal powder butterfly inside had also been transformed into a bronze Vajra butterfly. Before the powder butterfly evolved into the Vajra butterfly, Lin Yuan had already raised the elite powder butterfly's quality to epic. Therefore, the bronze Vajra butterfly had 3 exclusive skills to choose from. 2 of these 3 exclusive skills were not considered good, so Lin Yuan gave up on them. The appearance of the 3rd exclusive skill, Counterattack Tremor, made Lin Yuan overjoyed. This exclusive skill could allow Chu Xi to defend against the opponent's attack while reflecting a portion of the damage caused by the opponent's attack back in the form of energy tremor. The Vajra butterfly's elite ability, Vajra Shield, would allow the Vajra butterfly to fly around the target and condense a solid, transparent Vajra shield on the target. This was the prototype of an iron bucket in Lin Yuan's mind. The Vajra butterfly's exclusive skill, Counterattack Tremor, allowed Chu Xi to have a certain counterattack method while strengthening her defense. In Lin Yuan's opinion, this was the choice that a defense-type spirit chi professional should make. Compared to the Vajra butterfly, the sharp iron horn bull was simply a fake defense-type Fei. The Vajra butterfly was a Fei that Lin Yuan and Chu Xi had discussed and chosen after a lot of choices. If the Vajra butterfly was properly nurtured, it could evolve into a jadeite butterfly at gold. The jadeite butterfly had the reputation of being the best among gold defense-type Feis. This meant that the shield released by the jadeite butterfly was recognized as the best among gold defense-type Feis in terms of hardness. However, to nurture the Vajra butterfly into a jadeite butterfly required a lot of resources and extremely pure spirit chi. Now that Lin Yuan had the radiance dollars in Qing Wu's beetle-shaped diamond Fei storage box, he naturally did not need to worry about a lot of resources. Other creation masters might not be able to produce extremely pure spirit chi, but for Lin Yuan, it was just circulating the spiritual power in his body. It was extremely simple. Therefore, Lin Yuan was confident that he could evolve Chu Xi's Vajra butterfly into a jadeite butterfly at gold. As for the jadeite butterfly's evolution into the legendary Tourmaline Emperor butterfly, he would have to start from memory. At that moment, Lin Yuan could not help but set up a plan to nurture his younger sister into an iron bucket. Stack the thickest armor. Even if you get the most vicious beating, even if you get the most severe beating, you will not get hurt at all. This is what a mature brother should do. The Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy was currently in class, so there were not many people at the school entrance. At that moment, a young girl's nervous little head appeared at the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy's school entrance. When the young girl saw the sunny youth standing at the school entrance, She immediately beamed with joy and was about to rush up when she suddenly thought of something. She hurriedly revealed a pitiful smile and said sweetly, "Big brother, I missed you after not seeing you for so long. Bro, I missed you after not seeing you for so long." Baidu was reading the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 154. Lin Yuan had been a little angry at first. Zhou Xian, a defense-type spirit chi professional, had actually fought with a senior and injured herself, causing her arm to fracture due to the battle injury. If she wanted to practice combat skills, she could have gone to Star Web and climbed the tower to fight. Lin Yuan had not seen Zhou Xian for a few months, and the longing he had suppressed in his heart had completely erupted at this moment. Especially when he had been attacked by Qing Wu at the moment of life and death, he had only thought of Zhou Xian, his only family. The responsibility of being an elder brother made Lin Yuan afraid that if he really died, Zhou Xian would have no one to rely on. Lin Yuan looked at Zhou Xi's pitiful face and sweetly called him elder brother. When he looked at Zhou Xi's big round eyes, Lin Yuan knew that she was using the trick that worked every time. However, Lin Yuan really could not do anything about Zhou Xian like this. All the anger in his heart because of worry had dissipated. Even if Lin Yuan was a free and easy person when facing his only family member Zhou Xian, he would still inevitably have double standards. If a defense-type spirit chi professional like Zhou Xian fought with a senior and worked hard to improve her combat skills, Lin Yuan would definitely immediately give her a thumbs up and praise her. After all, Star Web combat skills were not as solid as actual combat skills. This was also why the school's actual combat classes were not on Star Web. Even if she was injured, in Lin Yuan's opinion, since it was a real combat, how could she not be injured? However, when it was Zhou Xian who was injured, Lin Yuan did not think so. When Zhou Xian walked over, her hand was hanging there and she was frowning because of the pain of walking. Lin Yuan immediately felt distressed and immediately activated the Silver/Fantasy Jasmine Lily's ability, Heal. A green light filled with vitality went toward Zhou Xi's injured left arm. As the green light flowed, Zhou Xian felt as if her arm was surrounded by an indescribable comfort. In less than a moment, Zhou Xian realized that her arm was no longer in pain. She tried to move her arm and said in surprise, "Lin Yuan, when did you become a healing-type spirit chi professional?" Lin Yuan, when did you become a healing-type spirit chi professional? Zhou Xian had only known that Lin Yuan had the talent to become a creation master, but she did not expect him to also be a healing-type spirit chi professional. Zhou Xian hurriedly trotted to Lin Yuan's side and happily took a closer look at Lin Yuan's healing hand. When Zhou Xian was studying at school, the person she missed the most was undoubtedly Lin Yuan. Ever since she knew that Lin Yuan's body had recovered, she could finally put her worries to rest. As for whether Lin Yuan was a creation master or a spirit chi professional, Zhou Xian would naturally be happy for him. However, what she valued the most was still his health. Just like how he was worried about Zhou Xian getting hurt. In her heart, he was a giant who had always shielded her from the wind and rain in her life. The word Big Brother would forever be the most sacred and powerful word in her heart. She only had a faint impression of her parents. After all, she had been too young when her parents had gone to resist the dimensional rift and never returned. Therefore, in her life, it had always been her elder brother Lin Yuan. Even when his body was weak, he still managed the face store. No matter how hard it was, he gritted his teeth and supported his family to send him to school. Now, as long as something good happened to him, she would be happier than if something good happened to her. This kind of brother-sister relationship, which had depended on each other for more than 10 years, could not be expressed in words. Although it was already late autumn in Redbud City, it was still hot and humid. However, the wind wasn't weak. The autumn wind scattered a strand of her hair, causing one of her ahog to stand on end. He hurriedly brushed away the raised ahog on her head with his hand and pressed it down. Zhou Xi's hair had been rather hard since she was young. Every autumn when the wind blew, the ahog on her head would stand up. Every time Lin Yuan saw her, he would skillfully press down the ahog on her head. "Are there any classes that haven't finished today?" Zhou Xian said after some thought. "There was an actual combat class in the afternoon, but my arm was injured, so I should be resting in the dormitory." Lin Yuan said as he handed the fruit in his hand to Zhou Xian. "Then I'll accompany you to ask for leave from Teacher Bao." Zhou Xian could rest in the dormitory in the afternoon due to her arm injury and didn't have to participate in the actual combat class. But now that Chu Xi's arm had recovered, he still had to inform Chu Xi's form teacher. After all, in Lin Yuan's opinion, he still had to abide by the school's rules and regulations. It just so happened that Lin Yuan was about to send the fruit to Teacher Bao. Along the way to Teacher Bao's office, he knocked on the door and entered. He saw Teacher Bao sitting at the table and writing something. When Lin Yuan took a closer look, he realized that the thick book was actually a lesson plan. Teacher Bao was a teacher of Fey observation and he taught theoretical knowledge. When Lin Yuan saw the thick lesson plan that Teacher Bao was writing, he knew that Teacher Bao had put in a lot of effort to make it easier for the students he taught to understand Feis. When Teacher Bao saw Lin Yuan beside Chu Xi, he was obviously stunned for a moment. After taking a closer look, he confirmed Lin Yuan's identity. Chu Xi and Lin Yuan had been together for more than 10 years. No matter how one looked at it, they were the closest people. Although Lin Yuan's temperament had undergone a great change, Chu Xi didn't feel any difference. This was because in Chu Xi's heart Lin Yuan was the best in every aspect. However, Teacher Bao had only met Lin Yuan twice. Now that he saw Lin Yuan again, he didn't dare to recognize him. This youth in front of him was sunny, handsome, and had an outstanding temperament. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was extremely romantic. However, after confirming Lin Yuan's identity, he nodded and looked at Chu Xi's hand. Student Chu Xi's talent is very good. Last week, she became a C-rank spirit chi professional. However, the bones in her hand have suffered a rather serious injury. It will take 100 days for the injured tendons and bones to recover. Your parents must pay attention to it. If you can prepare some spiritual ingredients that can promote bone healing and cooperate with the school doctor's treatment, the recovery speed can be increased. Teacher Bao spoke very seriously. If Chu Xi's hand could recover earlier, she could also train as soon as possible so that it wouldn't be a waste of Chu Xi's excellent talent. For spirit chi professionals, it was very important to build a good foundation when they were young. Chu Xi raised her hand and smiled at Teacher Bao. Teacher Bao, my hand has been healed by my brother. Chu Xi didn't think much of it, but when Teacher Bao heard it, he couldn't help but look at Lin Yuan in surprise. Teacher Bao didn't expect Lin Yuan to not only be a healing-type spirit chi professional, but his healing ability was also so strong that he could heal bone injuries. Teacher Bao had a very serious personality, but when he saw that Chu Xi's hand had recovered, he couldn't help but smile. The smile on Teacher Bao's wrinkled face made his stern face look a little benevolent. When Lin Yuan told Teacher Bao the reason for his visit, Teacher Bao waved his hand and approved Chu Xi's leave. Before leaving, Lin Yuan asked Chu Xi to place the fruit on Teacher Bao's desk. Before Lin Yuan could say anything, Teacher Bao picked up the fruit and handed it back. As a parent, why did you buy fruit when you came to pick up student Chu Xi? Take it away. I have to write my lesson plan. After saying that, Teacher Bao leaned over the desk and continued to write his lesson plan. Lin Yuan didn't say that he was going to leave the fruit for Teacher Bao again. Instead, he left the office with Chu Xi. In this world, there were always some people who were the most respectable. They taught and educated without asking for anything in return. Their white hair reflected the sun and moon, and their loyal hearts nourished new flowers. Perhaps Teacher Bao had long forgotten about the help he had given Chu Xi. Teacher Bao wasn't strong and was just an ordinary person among the masses. However, what he did was like a jade pot with a heart of ice that shone with a great light. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 155. They were now on the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy's campus and were about to leave. It was the end of class and the campus was filled with laughter and noise. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard the two students beside him and Chu Xi speak. What's the loneliest phrase you've ever heard? Another student said without thinking. Student, you're the only one who hasn't handed in your homework. Then he asked, do you know what extreme sports are? The student who asked the question before was obviously an expert as he replied without hesitation. When the teacher collects homework, you copy other people's homework to make up for your own. When Lin Yuan heard that, he couldn't help but raise his brows. These two students were really clever. Fortunately, Chu Xi never had to worry about her studies. Chu Xi walked beside Lin Yuan with a smile on her face. It was obvious that she was in a very good mood. Lin Yuan looked at Chu Xi and said, Sure. You have already become a C-rank spirit chi professional, but why didn't you tell me over the phone? If Teacher Bao didn't tell me, how long were you going to hide it from me? Zhou Xian stuck out her tongue, wrinkled her nose and said, I wanted to tell you personally when you came to see me, but old Bao spilled the beans before I told you. Apart from giving her a sense of security, her progress had also improved a lot. Perhaps the happiest thing was to share it with Lin Yuan and let the person closest to him share the joy of his advancement. Lin Yuan was actually quite surprised. Although Lin Yuan knew that Zhou Xian had good talent, he did not expect that she would be able to reach C rank from D rank in such a short period of cultivation. Lin Yuan knew that he was an anomaly. Spirit Chi professionals had to rely on enhancing phase to increase their rank, so he could not compare himself with Zhou Xian. However, even the people in the front row of the Radiance 100 sequence, such as the Radiance 100 sequence number 3 Long Tao, who was known as Overturn the Sea, could not compare to them. Right now he was only a pinnacle B rank Spirit Chi professional, and there was still a very difficult boundary to cross from A rank. Zhou Xian was only 15 years old, and Long Tao might not be able to break through to become a C rank Spirit Chi professional by the time he was 15. At that moment Zhou Xian whispered to Lin Yuan, Don't worry. Lin Yuan, I seem to have comprehended a willpower rune after becoming a C rank Spirit Chi professional. After saying that, Zhou Xian circulated her mind power. A willpower rune with a black metallic luster flew out of Zhou Xi's mind. This willpower rune with a black metallic luster revolved around Zhou Xi's body, giving off an extremely heavy feeling. Before Lin Yuan could digest his previous surprise, Zhou Xian had given him another shock. Zhou Xian had comprehended a willpower rune at the age of 15, which was equivalent to possessing a fantasy breed Fey. There might not be an absolute boundary between a Spirit Chi professional's grade and a contracted phase grade, but they were closely related. The limit of a D-rank Spirit Chi professional was to be able to control a bronze Fey. A C-rank Spirit Chi professional's limit was a gold Fey. At B-rank, Spirit Chi professionals could only control platinum Feys at their limit. As for A-rank Spirit Chi professionals, their limit was already at the diamond grade. If one wanted a Fey to reach the suzerain grade, the Spirit Chi professional would need to be at S rank first. If the Spirit Chi professional's grade was not up to par, it might cause a very awkward situation if they rashly increased the phase grade. For example, if one's spiritual energy could not withstand the load, it might collapse. The increase in a Spirit Chi professional's grade would also increase the spiritual energy and the Spirit Chi in the body. If the number of contracted phase was small, the spiritual energy might barely reach the standard and not collapse. However, even if the spiritual energy did not collapse, the spiritual power in the body would definitely not be able to keep up with the consumption of the phase abilities. Therefore, it had always been a big taboo for Spirit Chi professionals to rashly look for a creation master to increase the phase grade when their grade was not up to par. Zhou Xian was now a C-rank Spirit Chi professional and had reached the level where she could withstand gold phase. Zhou Xi's willpower rune had the oppressive feeling of metal, which was obviously very suitable for the sharp iron horn bull. At that moment, a pleasant yet strange voice suddenly echoed in his ears. Lin Yuan, your sister's talent is simply too shocking. Given time, her future will be limitless. Even though the mother of Bloodbath was experienced and knowledgeable, it could not help but sigh at Zhou Xi's talent. When Lin Yuan saw that Zhou Xian had a willpower rune, he said to her seriously, Give Teacher Bao a call later and ask for 10 days of leave. Lin Yuan did not say what to do and Zhou Xian did not ask either. She immediately called Teacher Bao. When Teacher Bao saw that it was Zhou Xian who was asking for leave, he thought that there was something wrong with her hand and did not hesitate to approve it. When Teacher Bao saw that it was Zhou Xian who asked for leave, he thought that there was something wrong with her hand and approved it without hesitation. However, due to Zhou Xi's talent, this Iron Bucket Sister plan needed to be implemented now. When Lin Yuan saw that Zhou Xian had finished the call, he reached out and touched her head. When Lin Yuan saw that Zhou Xian was done with the call, he reached out and touched her head. After Zhou Xian finished the call, Lin Yuan reached out to touch her head and said, Zhou Xian, you can be considered a powerful Spirit Chi professional now. If Zhou Xian had a fantasy breed Fey, she would indeed be able to bear the word powerful. Apart from needing a willpower rune, the most difficult thing for a bronze/fantasy breed Fey was to increase its quality to legend. Most creation masters would not be able to do anything about such an ability. Feys also had different talents. Fays with extremely high talents could also increase their quality to a very high level without the help of a creation master. However, such fays were always encountered and not sought after. He did not know what grade of creation master would be able to evolve a bronze fay to legend. However, ordinary class 4 creation masters obviously could not do it, and Lin Yuan did not know if pinnacle class 4 creation masters could succeed. However, it was not difficult for Lin Yuan to increase a bronze fay to legend. Given Lin Yuan's standard as a C-rank spirit chi professional, he only needed 5 days to enhance fays in the spirit lock spatial zone and upgrade a bronze fay to legend. Therefore, the real difficulty for Zhou Xian to have a fantasy breed at bronze was that she needed a willpower rune. She already had this willpower rune. Lin Yuan had asked Zhou Xian to apply for 10 days of leave from Teacher Bao because he wanted to properly enhance her. When Zhou Xian saw that Lin Yuan had been looking serious as though he was thinking about something, she whispered to him seriously, "Lin Yuan, I didn't tell anyone that I comprehended a willpower rune. Lin Yuan, I didn't tell anyone that I comprehended a willpower rune." Upon hearing Zhou Xi's words, Lin Yuan laughed. There was a saying that children from poor families matured early, and this saying was indeed true. Lin Yuan had lived 2 lives and naturally understood the principle of, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Zhou Xian had grown up in a difficult environment and also understood this principle. Lin Yuan was very pleased with Zhou Xi's cautiousness. At the same time, Lin Yuan looked at Zhou Xian with a firm gaze and said, "It's a good thing to hide your edge. However, from now on you don't need to hide your edge anymore. You can show your talents to your heart's content." Lin Yuan had already made a decision when he knew that Zhou Xian had comprehended a willpower rune. He wanted to tell his master, the Moon Empress, about Zhou Xi's talent. He could afford all of Zhou Xi's fays and resources in the future. However, Lin Yuan needed to ensure that Zhou Xian could show her talent to her heart's content in front of everyone with such a strong talent, and that no one would have any bad ideas because of jealousy. Lin Yuan had always wanted to roam the world single-handedly. However, Lin Yuan knew that the moment he had acknowledged the Moon Empress as his master, she had already become his teacher and a relative who had no blood relations with him. No matter what, Lin Yuan would always have one of the Radiance Federation's 3 Class 5 creation masters behind him. With the Moon Empress around, Zhou Xi's safety would not be a problem. As he looked at Zhou Xian, Lin Yuan could not help but feel proud. Lin Yuan's heart was filled with lofty sentiments. Since my sister has talent, why does she need to hide? She should shine in the center of everyone. At the same time, Lin Yuan's gaze became increasingly firm. Given his current improvement speed, he would be able to protect Zhou Xian even if he was alone in 2 years. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly felt as though he had a daughter in his family who had just matured. Baiduan read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 156. Since he had decided to give Zhou Xian an upgrade, Lin Yuan did not delay at all. After Lin Yuan and Zhou Xian went to have a meal, he brought Zhou Xian to the Redbud City's Creation Master Association. At that time, Lin Yuan had completed the Class 2 Creation Master exam in the Redbud City's Creation Master Association. This time Lin Yuan first paid a visit to Elder Ning. When he saw Elder Ning, he found that Elder Ning was still nurturing that spiral-toothed shark. Compared to when Lin Yuan had seen the spiral-toothed shark more than 2 months ago, this spiral-toothed shark had become even larger. At the same time, it was also stronger. This was a sign that the spiral-toothed shark was about to undergo prehistoric atavism again. It seemed that Elder Ning's intention of activating the trace of Megalodon's bloodline in this spiral-toothed shark was really very likely to be realized. After paying a visit to Elder Ning, Lin Yuan rented a breeding room in the Creation Master Association as a Class 2 Creation Master. Then he prepared some fresh fruits rich in spirit qi in the breeding room, which became Lin Yuan's meals for the next few days. In these few days, Lin Yuan wanted to carry out a qualitative upgrade for Zhou Xian. Although Zhou Xian had been attending school in Redbud City for some time, this was her first time coming to the Creation Master Association in Redbud City. As a member of the Radiance Federation, Zhou Xian did not know much about the various aspects of Creation Master's phase. However, Zhou Xian also knew the status of Creation Masters in the Radiance Federation. Lin Yuan being able to become a Creation Master made Zhou Xian exceptionally proud. Lin Yuan's expectations for Zhou Xian were the same as Zhou Xi's expectations for him. It was just that she was healthy. However, she would not be less proud of any achievements of the other party. Lin Yuan took out the Vajra butterfly stored in the leaf-shaped diamond Fei storage box in the breeding room. Fei name, Vajra butterfly, Fei species, Chrysalis/Chrysalis, Fei grade, bronze 10/10, Fei type, metal Fei quality, epic abilities frowny face wing block, condense hard metal on the wings to block, steel pattern shield. Quickly attach to the target and condense a hard metal transparent omnidirectional shield that can follow the target's movement. Exclusive skill frowny face counterattack tremor. When attacked, a portion of the damage received will be reflected back in the form of an energy tremor, regardless of whether it is a physical attack or a magic attack. Lin Yuan was very satisfied with this Vajra butterfly, especially its exclusive skill. This Vajra butterfly is very suitable for you and can take on your responsibilities as a defense-type spirit chi professional. After the Vajra butterfly appeared, Zhou Xian saw a butterfly the size of an adult's fist that looked like a metal sculpture flying around Lin Yuan. The butterfly's wings shone with a dark metallic luster, with many metallic patterns. While flying, the Vajra butterfly flew to Zhou Xi's side at Lin Yuan's signal. Zhou Xian extended her hand and the Vajra butterfly immediately landed on it. After teasing the Vajra butterfly for a while, Zhou Xian formed a contract with it. She was naturally very clear about the responsibilities of a defense-class spirit chi professional. In a team, defense-class spirit chi professionals had to cooperate with the rest of the team to take on the responsibility of defense in the team. Although the sharp iron horn bull was a defense-type Fei, it was undoubtedly more like a combat-class Fei, and its sacrifice characteristic was only effective against Zhou Xian. Therefore, Zhou Xian had only formed a contract with the sharp iron horn bull. If she formed a team with others as a defense-class spirit chi professional, she would obviously not be qualified. But now that she had the Vajra butterfly, things were clearly different. After Zhou Xian completed the contract with the Vajra butterfly, Lin Yuan let her summon the sharp iron horn bull. The sharp iron horn bull moved as soon as it appeared. It gently rubbed its cheek against Zhou Xi's hand, still worried about Zhou Xi's injuries in the previous battle. Clearly it was very attached to Zhou Xian. Then the sharp iron horn bull saw Lin Yuan and turned its head to Zhou Xian. Under Zhou Xi's signal, it walked to Lin Yuan's side. It shook its head at Lin Yuan as a greeting. It was obvious that the sharp iron horn bull still remembered Lin Yuan, but after becoming Zhou Xi's contracted Fei, it had forgotten about him. Although it remembered that Lin Yuan had saved it at that time, the moment it became Zhou Xi's contracted Fei, it would only listen to Zhou Xi's words. Feis had a spirit and they always chose one person for life. Zhou Xian looked at the sharp iron horn bull's current state and knew that she had nurtured it well. At that moment, the sharp iron horn bull had evolved from bronze level I 2 months ago to bronze level 4. Such a speed was undoubtedly very fast without the help of a creation master. In addition, the sharp iron horn bull's body was much stronger than before. The metal luster on its body was thicker and even the horns on its head were sharper. Clearly, the sharp iron horn bull usually ate a lot of metal to have such good development. However, Zhou Xian was now faced with a choice. The willpower rune that Zhou Xian had comprehended had a strong feeling of metal. Therefore, this willpower rune was very suitable for both the sharp iron horn bull and the Vajra butterfly that she had just formed a contract with. In such a situation, Zhou Xian as the contractor had to make a choice. Lin Yuan knew that the choice would be very difficult, but Zhou Xian had to make a choice because there was only one willpower rune after all. Zhou Xian, your willpower runes are suitable for both the Vajra butterfly and the sharp iron horn bull. Which Fei do you want to evolve into a fantasy breed? Fantasy breed? Zhou Xian asked in surprise. She could not make sense of the situation. Why did Lin Yuan suddenly mention fantasy breed? He even asked her to choose between the sharp iron horn bull and the Vajra butterfly to evolve into a fantasy breed first? Although fantasy breeds were not considered common knowledge, they were taught in Zhou Xi's courses. Zhou Xian naturally knew that to evolve a Fei into a fantasy breed, she needed to evolve it to legend. Zhou Xian looked at Lin Yuan in a daze. Could Lin Yuan be able to evolve a Fei to legend? Lin Yuan reached out and scratched the tip of Zhou Xi's nose, bringing her back to reality. Silly girl, when have I ever lied to you? The choice you make this time will affect your future development path for a long time, so you must be careful. She had always trusted him unconditionally. Therefore she was now carefully thinking about the problem that Lin Yuan had asked her to think about and began to weigh the use of willpower runes in her heart. In the end, Zhou Xian said firmly after a moment of contemplation, "I choose the sharp iron horn bull." Lin Yuan sighed. Selfishly he hoped that she would choose the Vajra butterfly. Since the Vajra butterfly had evolved into a fantasy breed, it could protect Zhou Xi's safety very well, and she would almost never be in danger of having her arm fractured like today. After all, the Vajra butterfly was an extremely powerful defense-type fae. After evolving into a fantasy breed and awakening its second exclusive skill, its defense would only become stronger. Previously, Lin Yuan had wanted to create an iron bucket sister. However, as a spirit chi professional and a person with an independent personality, she had the right to choose the path she wanted to take in the future. As an elder brother, Lin Yuan would intervene when it came to major issues, but he could only guide her on this path. At that moment, Lin Yuan asked again very cautiously, "Have you really decided on the sharp iron horn bull?" Willpower runes had always been something that could only be encountered and not sought. Although Zhou Xian had already obtained a willpower rune, she did not know when she would obtain another willpower rune again. Therefore, all spirit chi professionals were very cautious about the phase they wanted to choose for the willpower rune. Once they chose a fae to fuse with the willpower rune, it was very likely that their combat style and combat system in the future would change with this choice. Zhou Xian nodded without the slightest hesitation this time, her eyes shining. "Lin Yuan, I'm sure." Zhou Xian also had her own goal. She wanted to pass the Redbud 100 selection and become one of the top 10. Then she would represent Redbud City to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition. Zhou Xian had some considerations in her heart. If she chose the Vajra butterfly, although her defense would increase, her combat ability would undoubtedly be much weaker than choosing the sharp iron horn bull. However, whether it was the Redbud 100 selection or the Radiance 100 sequence competition, individual ability was undoubtedly more important than team ability. Therefore, if he wanted to be in the top 10 of the Redbud 100 and be qualified to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition, it would undoubtedly be more suitable to evolve the sharp iron horn bull into a fantasy breed. At the same time as Zhou Xi's first fae, the sharp iron horn bull had long since adapted to fighting with it. In fact, Zhou Xian, a 15-year-old girl, had her own ambitions. She wanted to use her own efforts to stand in the Radiance 100 sequence. Although she had always been sheltered under Lin Yuan's wings, she still felt that she could not help it. However, one day she also wanted to be fully fledged and able to protect him. This was the warm ambition of a young girl. After Zhou Xian made up her mind, Lin Yuan began to prepare to enhance the sharp iron horn bull. I hope that friends who like this book can come to QQ to support the original version. Thank you very much. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 157. Lin Yuan's Fae affinity was with healing type phase, support type phase and plant type phase. However, as a healing type and support type phase, Lin Yuan had the heart to output. Lin Yuan chose to nurture Red Thorn into a combat class Fae. He chose to nurture Red Thorn into a combat class Fae. Just by looking at Red Thorn's current form, it could be seen how dedicated Lin Yuan was to output. However, Lin Yuan did not expect his younger sister to be like him. As a defense-type spirit chi professional, she was addicted to controlling a big iron bull to output. It was true that people who were not of the same family would not enter the same door. If he wanted to upgrade the bronze sharp iron horn bull's quality to legend, he would need more than 5 days. During these 5 days, Lin Yuan would be able to enhance the sharp iron horn bull by himself in the breeding room. At that moment, a bell rang at the breeding room's door. During normal days, if a creation master was nurturing phase in the creation master's breeding room, no one would disturb them. Therefore, when the bell at the breeding room's door rang, Lin Yuan knew that Elder Ning had arrived. When Lin Yuan had come to visit Zhou Xian, he had only wanted to send her the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and let her sign a contract with the Vajra butterfly that he had nurtured previously. He had not expected her to comprehend a willpower rune. If he wanted to enhance the sharp iron horn bull's quality to legend, he would need some spiritual ingredients to assist. However, due to the suddenness of the matter, Lin Yuan had not prepared these spiritual ingredients in advance. Therefore, when he had visited Elder Ning just now, Lin Yuan had asked Elder Ning to see if there were any spiritual ingredients needed to enhance the sharp iron horn bull's quality in the Redbud City's Creation Master Association's material room. Lin Yuan opened the door and saw Elder Ning standing there. At the same time, Lin Yuan saw Ning Xuejuan, who had received him when he had participated in the Creation Master exam in the Redbud City's Creation Master Association. Ning Xuejuan was Elder Ning's granddaughter. Ning Xuejuan was holding a bronze face storage box in her hand. When Ning Xuejuan saw Lin Yuan, she nodded and greeted him. At the same time, her eyes were filled with surprise. Ning Xuejuan had a very deep impression of Lin Yuan, as he was the only one in the Radiance Federation who had scored full marks for all 3 knowledge-type lifestyle spirit chi occupations Class 1 exams. Ning Xuejuan was surprised to see Lin Yuan again. Compared to before, Lin Yuan's temperament seemed to have changed a lot. Elder Ning looked at Lin Yuan and laughed heartily. "Little Yuan, this old man has already prepared all the spiritual materials you asked for previously. At least he no longer had to waste time collecting the spiritual ingredients needed to upgrade the sharp iron horn bull to legend." Lin Yuan touched the back of his head and smiled brightly. "Elder Ning, thank you for your trouble. If he wanted to upgrade the bronze sharp iron horn bull to legendary grade, he would need a large amount of ferromanganese ores and metal essences. Ferromanganese ores and metal essences were not very rare spirit materials. Metal essence was the crystallization left behind by mixing a large amount of metals together and forging them at high temperatures. Ferromanganese ore is a dark blue flake of metal deep in the earth. While ferromanganese ore was abnormally hard, if one touched it with their hands, their fingers would feel a kind of metallic prickling. Metal essence and ferromanganese ore were 2 spiritual materials. Metal essence required 250 caddies, while ferromanganese ore required 1,000 caddies. Metal essence's price was about 2 radiance dollars per caddy, while ferromanganese ore required nearly 8 radiance dollars per caddy. If it were in the past, Lin Yuan would not be able to take out nearly 20,000 radiance dollars at once. However, since he had the massive amount of radiance dollars in Qing Wu's beetle-shaped face storage box, Lin Yuan no longer needed to be restrained if he wanted to buy these spiritual ingredients to nurture Fays. He could just buy them and use them. Ning Xuejuan handed the bronze face storage box to Lin Yuan and looked at Zhou Xian, who was beside him. Ning Xuejuan could tell at a glance that Zhou Xian was Lin Yuan's younger sister, even though Zhou Xian and Lin Yuan's temperament was completely different. Lin Yuan was the kind of sunny youth that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Zhou Xian, on the other hand, had a trace of coldness in her tranquility. Although she had a smile on her face, she seemed to have a faint sense of alienation from everything except Lin Yuan. Even if their temperaments were completely different, their eyebrows and eyes were very similar. With this kind of facial resemblance, it was obvious that they were related by blood. Ning Xuejuan extended her hand in a friendly manner and greeted Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian was stunned. Then she smiled faintly and shook hands with Ning Xuejuan politely. When Elder Ning saw this, he looked at Zhou Xian and laughed. "Little Yuan, you are nurturing Fays inside and can't take care of this little girl. Why don't I bring the little girl out and let my granddaughter accompany her to stroll around?" It just so happened that Lin Yuan had been thinking about enhancing his Fays. He could not possibly let her stay in this breeding room out of boredom. He needed to focus on nurturing Fays for the next 5 days. He really could not bear to leave her aside. He was more at ease now that Zhou Xian was with Elder Ning and Ning Xuejuan. Zhou Xian turned to look at Lin Yuan. After Lin Yuan nodded, she openly followed Elder Ning and Ning Xuejuan out of the breeding room. Lin Yuan was the only one left in the breeding room. Lin Yuan also took out the metal essences and ferromanganese ores stored in the bronze face storage box that Ning Xuejuan had just handed over. Then he touched the sharp iron horn bull's horns and said, "Iron lump, go eat these metal essences and ferromanganese ores, then I'll raise your grade." Although the sharp iron horn bull was not as intelligent as Chimey, it could still understand Lin Yuan's words. Understanding Lin Yuan's meaning, the sharp iron horn bull immediately snorted excitedly and hurriedly ate the metal essences and ferromanganese ores that Lin Yuan had put on the ground. Although there were 250 kilograms of metal essence and 1,000 kilograms of ferromanganese iron, which sounded like a lot, it wasn't worth it. However, because the metal essence and the ferromanganese ores were extremely dense, they were abnormally heavy. Therefore, the metal essences and ferromanganese ores didn't seem to be much. Just as the sharp iron horn bull was happily eating the metal essences and ferromanganese ores, Lin Yuan looked at it and smiled faintly. In Lin Yuan's opinion, obtaining the severely injured elite/epic sharp rock bull had been a great bargain and an excellent fei. But now that Lin Yuan had money, he could easily buy a lot of defense-type feis that were better than the elite/epic sharp rock bull. Fortunately, the elite-ranked sharp rock bull had comprehended the sacrifice skill at elite rank. This rare ability allowed the sharp iron horn bull to be above most defense-type feis. When Lin Yuan had just recovered his body and could feel spirit qi, he didn't have any time to accumulate resources. Therefore, it was really difficult for Lin Yuan to prepare a defense-type fei for Zhou Xian. However, as a big brother, Lin Yuan had a clear conscience. Back then, Lin Yuan had fulfilled that sentence. What I'm giving you might not be the best, but this is what I can give. It's the best I can give now. The sharp iron horn bull had undergone a great transformation because of sacrifice. Now, the sharp iron horn bull was about to usher in its second transformation in its bull life. This transformation was also an extremely important sublimation in Zhou Xi's life. Lin Yuan quickly circulated the spiritual power in his body, and the pure spirit qi was quickly absorbed by every cell in the sharp iron horn bull's body. The sharp iron horn bull's cells seemed to be activated by this pure spiritual power and showed a hungry state, scrambling to absorb the energy in the metal essences and ferromanganese ores in its stomach. Time flew, and Lin Yuan basically didn't rest much for the past 5 days. At that moment, the sharp iron horn bull suddenly moved. The sharp iron horn bull's body, which was originally nearly 3 meters tall, had now skyrocketed to 3.5 meters and become stronger. The horns on both sides of its head and the horn on its forehead were even sharper, flickering with a cold metallic light. At that moment, Lin Yuan had finally promoted the bronze sharp iron horn bull's quality to legend. Next, he had to wait for Zhou Xian to fuse the willpower rune with the sharp iron horn bull and evolve it into a fantasy breed. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 158. At noon, Zhou Xian and Ning Xuejuan had just returned from a meal outside. Ning Xuejuan had been interacting with Zhou Xian for the past few days, and she always felt that Zhou Xian was refreshing her senses over and over again. At first, Ning Xuejuan felt that Zhou Xian was a girl who was indifferent and alienated from everything except Lin Yuan. However, after interacting with her for a few days, Ning Xuejuan realized that Zhou Xian wasn't indifferent to everything. Even that faint sense of alienation had completely disappeared after a few days of interaction. In the end, Ning Xuejuan finally understood that Zhou Xi's estrangement stemmed from her personality of not wanting to worry about things that didn't concern her, as well as her shyness. Elder Ning had been researching and cultivating the spiral-toothed shark as usual these past few days. Therefore, Ning Xuejuan had been with Zhou Xian for the past few days, whether they were eating or resting, and they gradually became friends. Zhou Xian, let's not go to this place for dinner tomorrow. Why did they put so much garlic in their cold dish? In the afternoon, I still have to receive some newcomers who are participating in the Creation Master exam. Ning Xuejuan pouted. When Zhou Xian heard Ning Xuejuan's words, she took out a watermelon-flavored hard candy from her pocket. The watermelon-flavored hard candy had a refreshing watermelon flavor, and it was able to cover up the strong garlic taste in the mouth. Zhou Xian had always had the habit of putting a piece of hard candy in her pocket because her body had been weak in the past and would often feel dizzy. Or they might suffer from hypoglycemia due to the daily chores of maintaining the store. When Zhou Xian was by his side, she would hand over the hard candy in her pocket when he was dizzy. Even though Lin Yuan's body had recovered, she still maintained this habit that she had developed for nearly a decade. Ning Xuejuan's eyes lit up when she saw the hard candy Zhou Xian handed her. She took it and put it in her mouth, immediately speaking in an exaggerated manner. Zhou Xian watermelon-flavored hard candy tastes so good. It's much better than chocolate. At this moment, there were 2 spirit qi professionals seated in the Creation Master Association's first floor hall. They looked like females in their 20s and were dressed very beautifully. It was likely that they had made an appointment with a Creation Master to nurture their feis. At that moment, Zhou Xian suddenly heard a long-haired female spirit qi professional speak. Last night, my best friend told me that her boyfriend of 8 years had cheated on her. asked the short-haired female spirit chi professional, who was clearly interested in this topic. Why? How could he cheat on her? After 8 years together, you should have a child by now. The long-haired female spirit chi professional was fiddling with the decorations on her spirit chi attire and said in disdain, "Not a single man is good." Another female spirit chi professional quickly chimed in. "That's right, I think so too. Otherwise I wouldn't still be single." As soon as he finished speaking, the long-haired female spirit chi professional beside him sighed. 8 whole years of love. To think that you couldn't even resist my seduction. Ning Xuejuan started coughing after hearing the conversation. She almost choked on the watermelon-flavored hard candy in her mouth. Zhou Xian also had a strange expression on her face. Zhou Xian couldn't help but think to herself, "Is this the world of adults? The world of adults was too scary. Fortunately, I'm just a kid." In the afternoon, Ning Xuejuan went to receive the newcomers that were participating in the Creation Master exam. Zhou Xian logged onto the star web in Ning Xuejuan's office and watched the videos of defense-class Spirit Chi professionals fighting in the S tournament to learn their defensive techniques. At that moment, Zhou Xian received a call from Lin Yuan. Zhou Xian arrived at the breeding room where Lin Yuan was. As soon as she entered, she saw that her contracted sharp iron horn bull was much stronger than before, be it in size or the sharpness of its horns. Lin Yuan was currently feeding some metal spiritual ingredients to the sharp iron horn bull so that it could accumulate more energy in preparation for becoming a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan stood up when he saw Zhou Xian come in. "Zhou Xian, the sharp iron horn bull's quality has reached legend now. Fuse the willpower rune you comprehended with the sharp iron horn bull, and it will evolve into a fantasy breed." Zhou Xian was currently looking at the sharp iron horn bull. She couldn't help but be astonished to see that the sharp iron horn bull had changed so much in 5 days. Although she knew about the means of creation masters, she had always been in school and had never seen or experienced it. The sharp iron horn bull was intimately rubbing its cheek against Zhou Xi's palm. Zhou Xian was surprised by the sharp iron horn bull's changes while feeling the growth brought about by its quality improvement. He was happy. The splendor of life lay in evolution. No matter what kind of creature it was, every evolution and evolution was a small epitome of life's greatness. Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows and smiled when he saw Zhou Xi's astonished look. He said with a smile, "When you fuse the willpower rune with the sharp iron horn bull, it will truly transform." "Zhou Xi, under what circumstances did you comprehend the willpower rune? This is very important because this willpower rune will affect the direction of your exclusive skill." Zhou Xian stuck out her tongue and carefully glanced at Lin Yuan before replying embarrassedly, "Well, when I was fighting against the seniors, the sharp iron horn bull was knocked down again and again." "Well, when I was fighting against the seniors, the sharp iron horn bull was knocked down again and again, but it always stood up and charged. Because of this, I felt the sharp iron horn bull's steel-like will and comprehended this willpower rune." Lin Yuan held his forehead. What else could he say? Zhou Xi's willpower rune was formed by recklessness. Did that mean that his plan to raise his sister into an iron bucket had failed at this stage? When Lin Yuan saw her careful expression, he rubbed the hair on the top of her head and said, "Don't worry. No matter how you walk your own path, I, your brother, will always stand behind you so you can proudly stride forward." Zhou Xiai beamed brightly and nodded vigorously. Then she silently said in her heart, "You're right. Brother, I also want to tell you in the future that I can stand behind you. Even if I can't protect you, I want to help you and fight alongside you." Zhou Xiai summoned the willpower rune in her spiritual space. Since they had been outside, the willpower rune that Zhou Xiai had summoned had flashed by, and he had not had the chance to carefully feel it. But now this bluish-black willpower rune had an iron-like willpower and a heavy metallic smell that moved Lin Yuan. Through this willpower rune, Lin Yuan could see how hard a 15-year-old girl and her bronze-sharp iron horn bull worked on a daily basis. As Zhou Xiai urged the dark green willpower rune, it fused with the sharp iron horn bull. A violent mooing resounded in the breeding room. It was different from the calm when the plant-type Fae, the jasmine lily, had evolved into a fantasy breed. At that moment, the sharp iron horn bull's body trembled violently in the thick metallic halo. It was obviously trying its best to endure the pain. Suddenly, the metallic halo flourished, and a pure black color rose from the bluish-black halo. At that moment Lin Yuan and Zhou Xian realized that the horns on both sides of the sharp iron horn bull's head and the sword-like horn on its forehead instantly melted. Then the sharp iron horn bull's entire body was wrapped in this sudden flourishing metallic halo. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 159. Zhou Xian saw the sharp iron-armored bull's horns suddenly melt, and then its entire body was completely enveloped by a metallic halo. Hearing the sharp iron horn bull's pained moo, Zhou Xian could not help but feel anxious, and her mind wavered. At that moment she heard Lin Yuan's voice. When a sharp iron horn bull advances to a fantasy breed, it will undergo an all-round change. Fantasy breeds transform and sublimate their genetic model, so the sharp iron horn bull will definitely experience pain when its body is reconstructed. Lin Yuan's words put Zhou Xian at ease. She listened to the sharp iron horn bull's painful roar. Zhou Xian felt an indescribable heartache for this companion she had been with day and night. This greenish-black metallic halo was abnormally thick, but there was an extremely pure black color rising from it. Ink flowed in this metallic halo, and not long after the ink gave off an obsidian-like luster. Gradually an obsidian-like luster replaced the greenish-black metallic halo. The sound of a bull's mooing could be heard even in the breeding room. This obsidian-like luster was completely restless. Finally, this restless obsidian-like luster converged and condensed, and was completely absorbed by the sharp iron horn bull's eyes. Accompanied by Zhou Xi's exclamation, the sharp iron horn bull, which had been promoted to a fantasy breed, finally revealed its true appearance. If the sharp iron horn bull was said to have sharp horns and unusually thick armor, then the sharp iron horn bull looked like a simpleton. Right now, the sharp iron horn bull's entire body was condensed with a kind of Zhuang Yi's beauty in battle. This kind of beauty was hidden behind the boiling will of steel, with an indomitable determination. The sharp iron horn bull's originally greenish-black body had completely turned black. This black was not pure black, but like obsidian, it would produce various colored flares under a beam of light. Lin Yuan looked at the sharp iron horn bull and suddenly felt that it seemed to have a sense of aesthetics when it evolved into a fantasy breed. He had actually tidied himself up into a colorful black. However, it had to be said that the sharp iron horn bull's obsidian-like body combined with its smooth metallic lines made it look less cumbersome than before. Just by looking at the sharp iron horn bull's eyes, it was as if it was an arrogant and determined beast. The sharp iron horn bull's melted horns did not grow back. Instead, there were dark holes where the horns used to be. However, the metal elements gushing out of the holes would form all kinds of horns on the sharp iron horn bull's head according to its will. After the sharp iron horn bull completed its evolution, it trotted to Zhou Xi's side and rubbed its head lovingly against her hand. In the past, the sharp iron horn bull had to be very careful every time it came into contact with Zhou Xian. If the sharp horns were to touch her hand, they would cut her hand. But now that it was a fantasy breed, the sharp iron horn bull no longer needed to worry about hurting Zhou Xian. When the sharp iron horn bull evolved into a fantasy breed, its horns would be completely elemental, and it would only condense its horns according to its will during battle. In his opinion, the elementalized bull horn was many times stronger than the sharp iron horn bull's horn. The sharpness and hardness of the sharp iron horn bull's horns, which had been upgraded to a fantasy breed, were many times higher than before. However, the strength of the sharp iron horn bull's elemental horns did not lie in their hardness and sharpness. Instead, it lay in the ability to change its shape, length, and direction at will. When the sharp iron horn bull charged, it had to adjust the angle of its horns according to the target to achieve the maximum degree of damage or defense. But now, when the sharp iron horn bull charged, it could directly control its elemental horns to condense them into various shapes and greet the target's weakness. The elemental condensation only took an instant, and it was not easy to dodge. It was just like when the sharp iron horn bull and other horned phase clashed, and the other horned phase and the sharp iron horn bull's sharp horns collided. When the sharp iron horn bull used its elemental horns to block, it could instantly condense a sharp black horn to penetrate the target's eyes or even pierce the skull and brain. Zhou Xian was feeling the sharp iron horn bull's changes, and her eyes were full of vigor and surprise. At that moment he used Morbius True Data and started to check the sharp iron horn bull's true data. Fey name: Obsidian Iron Wild Bull, Fey species, Horn species / Bull species, Fey grade, Bronze 10/10, Fey type, Metal Fey quality, Fantasy Eye abilities Frowny Face Iron Horn. Enhanced metal is attached to the horn to launch a self-sacrificial piercing attack regardless of injuries. Sacrifice. When the contractor is injured, help the contractor share the damage. If the contractor is injured, it will feed back its vitality to the contractor. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Pain Absorption. When receiving damage, absorb a portion of the damage and turn it into vitality. Annihilation Gaze. Arrogant battle consciousness and battle zeal drive its instinctive footsteps. The Obsidian Iron Wild Bull instantly transforms all the damage it receives in battle into a spiritual impact to counterattack the opponent. Under true data, Lin Yuan raised his brows. The Sharp Iron Horn Bull should no longer be called the Sharp Iron Horn Bull but the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up when he saw the Sharp Iron Horn Bull's exclusive skill after becoming a fantasy breed Obsidian Iron Wild Bull. Sharp Iron Armored Bull, this boorish fellow, was really something. However, after evolving into a fantasy breed Obsidian Iron Wild Bull, it was getting further and further away from being a defense-type Fey. However, when Lin Yuan observed the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's abilities, he found that they had been enhanced to different extents after becoming a fantasy breed. Its basic ability, Iron Horn, had increased its penetrative ability. The biggest change was the rare ability, Sacrifice, that it had comprehended at Elite. The Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's rare skill, Sacrifice, not only helped its contestant take damage, but it could also return its life force to its contestant. Lin Yuan could not help but look at the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull in a different light. As a defense-type Fey, the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull not only wanted to get its hands on a combat-type Fey but also a healing-type Fey. What a greedy bull. Defense-type Spirit Chi professionals were responsible for the team's defense and needed healing from healing-type Spirit Chi professionals the most. However, the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's Sacrifice ability could not only be used as a shield but also as a large moving health bag. Combined with the Bronze exclusive skill Pain Absorption, it could absorb a certain amount of damage and convert it into vitality. This allowed the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's endurance to rise to a new level. However, the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's excellent replenishment system had become the sharpest sword it had comprehended after becoming a fantasy breed. Who knew how much damage the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull would suffer in a battle? When the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull was attacked, it could absorb a portion of the damage and automatically replenish its vitality. If the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull could not be killed in one blow, it would be an unkillable cockroach. According to the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's exclusive skill, Annihilation Gaze, if the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull suffered all the damage in battle and released a spiritual attack through its eyes, the Fey or Spirit Chi professional that was hit by the spiritual attack might become an idiot or even die. Lin Yuan found that the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull was simply a defense-type Fey that dabbled in offense and healing. However, these dabbles were all for the sake of being more reckless. Lin Yuan had already written down the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull in his notebook and blamed it for Chu Xi's recklessness. However, Lin Yuan realized that the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's rare ability, Sacrifice, could be used with the Vajra butterfly to restart his plan of nurturing a younger sister. Are you afraid of a younger sister that can counterattack and recover HP? However, Lin Yuan felt that his previous plan needed to be modified again. While Chu Xi was looking at Lin Yuan, she did not know that Lin Yuan was already planning the refined version of his plan of nurturing a younger sister. He wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 160. In Lin Yuan's opinion, with the fantasy breed Obsidian Iron Wild Bull and the Bronze/Legend Vajra Butterfly, Chu Xi would have few opponents in the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy and among her peers. At the same time, the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's exclusive skill, Annihilation Gaze, had given it a real attack method. It did not just rely on the horn impact to deal damage, which was a basic physical attack. Now, Annihilation Gaze allowed the Obsidian Iron Wild Bull's attack method to reach the spiritual level. If you hit me, I'll shock you. If you hit me again, I'll shock you again. But if I use pain to recover my HP, you'll hit me again. Then I'll use Annihilation Gaze to stare at you. An iron bucket was not scary. An iron bucket full of thorns that could automatically recover was scary. However, Zhou Xi's current combat was more inclined toward an individual rather than a team's defense. Therefore, Lin Yuan's next choice of phase for Zhou Xi would be more focused on team defense. After all, a true defense-type spirit chi professional would not be able to leave the team. Lin Yuan's little iron block is so strong after becoming a fantasy breed. I can feel that its strength has increased by more than 5 times. Lin Yuan's brows twitched. Was it really appropriate for such a reckless obsidian iron wild bull to have such a cute name? Now that the obsidian iron wild bull has evolved into a fantasy breed, not only has its strength increased, but other aspects have also undergone earth-shaking changes. You'll know when you fight with the senior who injured your arm in the live combat class. Zhou Xi's eyes lit up. Then I'll try it during the live combat class. Senior Zhao Liang is the class representative for the Year 3 training class. If I can defeat him, I can get extra credits. Lin Yuan let out a soft snort. When the class representative for the Year 3 combat class, Zhao Liang, fights with the evolved obsidian iron wild bull, the evolved obsidian iron wild bull will definitely give him a good beating. Lin Yuan knew that Zhou Xi's arm injury was not Zhao Liang's fault. In order to achieve the true training goal during the live combat class, one had to fight with all their might. Even if the teacher of the live combat class was watching, injuries were inevitable. But then again, Zhou Xi was his little sister, who asked him to always have double standards when facing Zhou Xi. Zhou Xi had been delivering food to him on time every day for the past few days. However, when Zhou Xi sent him 3 meals a day, she realized that he would only eat 1 meal, which was before he had to rest every day. Apart from that, he spent the rest of the time enhancing his small metal fei. Although Zhou Xi had watched Lin Yuan endure hardship since he was young, she could not help but feel sorry for him when she saw him like this. It just so happened that it was already afternoon and Lin Yuan had not eaten yet. Lin Yuan, let's eat outside. She originally wanted to say that she was going to Lin Yuan's favorite delicacies. Although she did not spend much time in Redbud City, it was inevitable that she would talk about it when she was with her classmates. Therefore, Zhou Xi had inadvertently memorized some places. However, when she thought about it, she realized that Lin Yuan had never expressed what he liked or disliked since he was young. Every time he ate, as long as she picked up 2 more dishes with her chopsticks, Lin Yuan would almost never pick up this dish again and would leave it for her. In the past, when the two of them depended on each other, Lin Yuan would make sure to cook 2 dishes for every meal no matter how hard it was, even though one dish might be pitifully small and be gone after 1 or 2 chopsticks. Because Lin Yuan had always cared for her, Zhou Xi did not remember much of the hardships she had suffered as a child. Instead, every scene in her memories was the sweetness of snuggling with Lin Yuan. At that moment, Lin Yuan also felt hungry. Previously, when he had been enhancing his phase quality, he had been wholeheartedly focused on it and did not feel hungry. Now that Zhou Xi had promoted the obsidian iron wild bull into a fantasy breed, Lin Yuan's purpose of renting the breeding room in the Creation Master Association had been achieved. When he heard Zhou Xi say that they were going to eat, Lin Yuan really felt that his stomach was empty and almost growling. "Go. We'll say goodbye to Elder Ning and then I'll take you to eat your favorite seafood." Zhou Xi revealed a bright smile. No matter when, even when eating, Lin Yuan would always think of what he liked to eat first. When Lin Yuan and Zhou Xi arrived at Elder Ning's office, they found that he was not there. Lin Yuan thought that if Elder Ning was not in the office at this time, he should be cultivating the spiral-toothed shark in the breeding room. Lin Yuan brought Zhou Xi to the lobby on the 1st floor and found Ning Xuejuan, who was currently receiving the newcomers in the lobby. Ning Xuejuan was sitting on a chair, waiting for the newcomers to come out. Lin Yuan went forward and said, "Big Sister Xuejuan, I've finished using the breeding room." "Sister Xuejuan, I've finished using the breeding room. Thank you for taking care of Zhou Xi for the past few days. Zhou Xi and I will be leaving first. Please send Elder Ning our regards." Ning Xuejuan smiled and nodded. "No problem. Elder Ning said that the spiral-toothed shark will evolve in the next few days, so he's focused on the breeding room." After Ning Xuejuan finished speaking to Lin Yuan, she made a call gesture to Zhou Xi. Zhou Xi immediately responded with a called gesture and flashed a bright smile. Lin Yuan's heart warmed when he saw that. For a girl of Zhou Xi's age, other people's children were carefree and made good friends. Since Zhou Xi started going to school, Lin Yuan had never heard anything about friends from her. Now it seemed that Zhou Xian and Ning Xuejuan had become friends, which finally made Lin Yuan feel relieved. Lin Yuan had always hoped that Zhou Xian would not be too mature and could enjoy her childhood to the fullest. In fact, Lin Yuan had worked so hard for so many years because of this. Otherwise, he would not have insisted that Zhou Xian go to school. After leaving the Redbud City's Creation Master Association's door, Lin Yuan took Zhou Xian to the Spirit Food Pavilion, which was not far from the Creation Master Association. The Spirit Food Pavilion was an organization that was comparable to Ostrich Logistics. However, Ostrich Logistics was in the logistics business, while the Spirit Food Pavilion opened restaurants. The Spirit Food Pavilion had opened restaurants in the major cities of the Radiance Federation's 32 main cities. The meals in the restaurants were all cooked with various spiritual ingredients. Moreover, the Spirit Food Pavilion was very famous for a variety of fine wines that were very popular in the Radiance Federation. The Spirit Food Pavilion did not have delicacies cooked with ingredients from normal and elite phase. The lowest grade ingredients in the dishes were bronze grade, and some signature dishes even had platinum grade ingredients. However, if one were to eat dishes made with platinum ingredients, the price of a single meal would be sky high. Unless one was really rich, very few people could afford the price. Lin Yuan had brought Zhou Xian here because the seafood here was very delicious and famous in the entire Radiance Federation. Another reason was that Zhou Xian was now studying at the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy and had to train every day. This was a very precious golden period in Zhou Xi's life, so Lin Yuan planned to customize a set of ingredients at the Spirit Food Pavilion for a long time. In the future, Zhou Xi's 3 meals would be delivered by the Spirit Food Pavilion. Although the food made with nutritious spiritual ingredients would not have any effect if eaten for a few days, it would be different over time. Just as he walked to the entrance of the Spirit Food Pavilion, Lin Yuan saw a young couple quarreling. "Jiang Yan, let's break up. You've eaten too much." The girl punched the boy's head. "My name is Zhang Yan." The boy was stunned. "Which chapter? Which chapter?" The girl punched again. "Zhang. Also, you only ordered a plate of chicken wings with 4 wings. I only ate all 4 wings. How can I eat too much?" At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard someone calling him from behind. He turned around and saw that it was an acquaintance. "Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free." Chapter 161. Lin Yuan turned around and realized that it was Ling Wu, who had brought him to Redbud City to meet Ling Xiao. Ling Wu hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Lord Lin Yuan, are you here to eat at the Spirit Food Pavilion?" Lin Yuan nodded, unable to complain about how Ling Wu addressed him. Lin Yuan smiled at Zhou Xian and said, "Lord Lin Yuan, are you here to eat at the Spirit Food Pavilion?" Lin Yuan nodded, unable to complain about how Ling Wu addressed him. Lin Yuan smiled and looked at Zhou Xian. Ling Wu looked at Lin Yuan and Zhou Xian and his heart skipped a beat. As Ling Zhao's subordinate officer, Ling Wu did not know why Ling Xiao had brought Lin Yuan to the royal capital. However, based on Ling Zhao's attitude toward Lin Yuan, Ling Wu knew that Lin Yuan's identity was not simple. He hurriedly said, "Lord Lin Yuan's sister is a student of the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy. The Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy's principal will also be there at noon. Why don't Lord Lin Yuan and your sister go together?" Lin Yuan shook his head. "I'll just bring my sister for a meal. I won't disturb you." Ling Wu nodded and did not say anything else. He took his leave and entered the Spirit Food Pavilion first. Zhou Xian looked at Lin Yuan and said with a faint smile, "Lord Lin Yuan?" Lin Yuan looked at Zhou Xian and said angrily, "Lord Lin Yuan?" Lin Yuan looked at Zhou Xian and said angrily, "Lord Zhou Xian, please speak." Zhou Xian was a little surprised. Although she knew that Lin Yuan was very powerful, she had not expected him to be so well off after listening to the man's words. Although she was surprised, she was not overly surprised as she had already been surprised when she saw Lin Yuan talking to Elder Ning in the Creation Master Association. Elder Ning was the vice president of Redbud City's Creation Master Association. Even though Ling Wu was City Lordess Ling Zhao's subordinate officer, he could not compare to Elder Ning. Lin Yuan had rejected Ling Wu because in his opinion, Zhou Xian only needed to rely on her talent and strength to walk down the path step by step. Only by using strength to win respect would one obtain dignity. It was just like how Qing Rui had been crowned as the #1 creation master of the younger generation and given the title of Feng Yang, when he was only a Class 2 creation master. Perhaps those who weren't in the creation master circle would feel envious, but just by looking at Long Tao's attitude toward Qing Rui, Lin Yuan knew that Qing Rui was just a clown in the eyes of true geniuses. Qing Rui was just a clown. After all, in a world where martial arts was respected, only strength was fundamental. He hoped that she could embark on a path full of brilliance in the future. In the great world, everyone was floating and sinking as they wished. However, in the end, only the righteous path of the human world was the only answer. After entering the Spirit Food Pavilion, he saw that the interior was decorated in an antique style. In the antique Spirit Food Pavilion, a mellow sound of a zither was being played, like rain falling on a banana leaf. At times the sound of the zither was quiet and tranquil, and at other times the sound waves curled up in spirals. It gave people a comfortable feeling of seclusion. Even though Lin Yuan had lived 2 lives, he could not help but sigh. The Spirit Food Pavilion's decorations were so exquisite that they were almost impeccable. Lin Yuan and Zhou Xian did not go to the private room upstairs. Instead, they sat down in the hall where there were already many diners around. They tasted the delicacies and ate the 5 grains. Although the bustling hall wasn't as quiet as the private room, there was a different kind of atmosphere. Lin Yuan pushed the menu to Zhou Xian. She looked at the price and pushed the menu back to Lin Yuan, saying in a low voice, "Lin Yuan, this place is too expensive. Why don't we go somewhere else? The grilled fish you took me to last time was super delicious." Lin Yuan rubbed the hair on top of Zhou Xi's head and handed the menu over. "I'm rich now. You can afford whatever you like." In the end, Zhou Xi ordered for a long time and ordered 2 seafood soups made of bronze ingredients. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan took the menu and ordered a few delicacies made of silver ingredients according to Zhou Xi's taste. Although the fish head in one of the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers was a silver-level ingredient, the chopped chili was a gold-level ingredient. Upon seeing this, Zhou Xi looked at Lin Yuan with some worry, somewhat afraid that he would spend too much money on this meal and live a tight life. Lin Yuan could understand Zhou Xi's thoughts. After all, he had been frugal for the past decade or so. However, Lin Yuan wanted to change Zhou Xi's thoughts. He naturally had to be frugal when he had no money, but if he did not spend it when he had money, it would be a waste to leave it there. At that moment, the dishes that Lin Yuan and Zhou Xi ordered were served one after another. Just as the waiters of the Spirit Food Pavilion were serving the dishes, a little girl of around 5 to 6 years of age asked from a nearby table, "Mommy, if the little frog can't go home, will Mommy be worried?" The middle-aged woman next to the little girl was clearly the little girl's mother. At this moment, the middle-aged woman was picking up a dried pot bullfrog. When she heard the little girl's question, her hand froze in mid-air. She was a little embarrassed and didn't know how to answer. The waiter who served Lin Yuan the dishes quickly stepped forward to help. "No, their whole family is here." Lin Yuan, who was drinking the seafood soup, nearly choked on the prawns in the seafood. Such a child-destroying answer was too showy. Lin Yuan could see that she was enjoying the delicacies made of spiritual ingredients. Feeling her happy mood, Lin Yuan ate a lot more than before. After the meal, Lin Yuan ordered 2 months' worth of silver ingredients in the Spirit Food Pavilion for Zhou Xi. At Zhou Xi's current rank, eating delicacies made from silver spiritual ingredients was the most suitable. After ordering the set meal from the Spirit Food Pavilion, Lin Yuan took Zhou Xi to the Treasure Pavilion in Redbud City to buy a large batch of metals and spiritual ingredients that the obsidian iron wild bull usually ate. There was also the energy nectar that the steel-patterned butterfly usually needed. After this purchase, Lin Yuan found that if he used a low-grade Fey storage box to store so many spiritual ingredients, it would be really inconvenient for Zhou Xi to access them. Therefore, Lin Yuan helped Zhou Xi order a diamond Fey storage box from Ostrich Logistics. Although Lin Yuan knew that a diamond Fey storage box was very expensive, he didn't expect the price to be so ridiculously high. If it weren't for the radiance dollars that Qing Wu had left behind, Lin Yuan really couldn't afford this diamond Fey storage box for a while. Lin Yuan deliberately didn't promote the obsidian iron wild bull to silver because a bronze fantasy breed Fey could better reflect its talent. Since Zhou Xi wanted to pursue the path of a genius, he would follow it to the end. Now Lin Yuan's purpose of meeting Zhou Xi was considered completed. Then Lin Yuan carefully gave the bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian, this silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar can wash away the impurities in the body and increase your potential. When you drink it, just drink it and it will wash away all the impurities in your body in one go. When Zhou Xian saw that Lin Yuan was speaking very solemnly, she also remembered his words very seriously. Although Zhou Xian didn't know what the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was, just its ability to wash away the impurities in the body and increase one's potential was certainly not ordinary. Since Lin Yuan left the last time, Zhou Xian had applied for a single dormitory in order to have enough private space to better improve her strength. Zhou Xian planned to drink the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar first when she returned to the dormitory. After sending Zhou Xian back to school, Lin Yuan went to visit City Lordess Ling Xiao. City Lordess Ling Xiao and Elder Ning were both experts who had helped Lin Yuan, so he was very respectful to them. After visiting Ling Xiao, Lin Yuan was about to leave Redbud City. Lin Yuan immediately called his master, the Moon Empress. Baiduan read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 162. In the Radiant Moon Palace's breeding room, the Moon Empress was mixing spiritual ingredients. As the Moon Empress worked smoothly, a bottle of light purple potion was concocted. The Moon Empress' hand shook, and the light purple potion turned into a fragrant mist that enveloped a diamond/epic lotus fay in the lotus pond. This lotus fay quickly absorbed the faint purple fragrant mist, and in a short while this diamond/epic fay was promoted to diamond/legend. However, when this lotus fay's quality had been promoted from diamond/epic to legend, only half of the fragrant mist had been used. The remaining fragrant mist spread out and was absorbed by the other lotus-shaped fays in the lotus pond. At that moment, the Moon Empress' cell phone on the table in the breeding room rang. It had been a long time since the Moon Empress used a cell phone. If the Moon Empress wanted to meet someone, she could just send a message. If others wanted to see the Moon Empress, they would have to see if they were qualified. The Moon Empress did not have many numbers saved on her cell phone. Generally, those who had numbers on her cell phone were all exceptional experts in the Radiance Federation. Of course, there were exceptions such as Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress took out her phone and revealed a gentle smile when she saw the caller ID. He answered the call. Lin Yuan, you haven't come to the Radiant Moon Palace to see teacher for some time. Lin Yuan said hurriedly. Teacher, I went to the Endless Forest for wild harvesting some time ago and now I've come to the Redbud City. When I return to the royal capital, I'll go and see you. Lin Yuan did not tell the Moon Empress about the dimensional rift battle outside Millstone Town, as he was afraid she would be worried. Although Lin Yuan did not say it, the Moon Empress already knew about such a huge matter, especially when it concerned Lin Yuan. After finding out, the Moon Empress first marveled at Lin Yuan's strength. She had always known that Lin Yuan was extremely talented as a creation master, but she didn't expect him to also be so powerful as a combat-class spirit chi professional. While the Moon Empress was proud of Lin Yuan, she could not help but feel that she had neglected her duties as a teacher. As for Lin Yuan's safety, the Moon Empress was not worried. With the Mother of Bloodbath, Lin Yuan's path protector, around, even if a Class 3-dimensional rift opened, the Mother of Bloodbath would be able to bring Lin Yuan back unscathed. After chatting with the Moon Empress for a while, Lin Yuan got straight to the point. Teacher, I want to ask you for a favor. When the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's words, she almost burst out laughing. During this period of time, the Moon Empress was worried to death. What should she do if her disciple was too independent and didn't rely on his master for anything? Even the Moon Empress, who rarely went on Star Web, did not find an answer when she searched for posts on Star Web because Lin Yuan was too independent. In the end, the Moon Empress posted anonymously to ask for help, but the answer she got almost caused her to crush her phone in anger. If Cold Moon hadn't realized that the Moon Empress was angry and helped her crush the cell phone first, the cell phone would have been crushed by the Moon Empress. Now that the Moon Empress heard that Lin Yuan had taken the initiative to look for her, she couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment as a master. Tell me, Master will do everything for you. The Moon Empress spoke very confidently because there was nothing in this world that couldn't be done after 10 months. He then told the Moon Empress about Zhou Xi's situation and his thoughts. When the Moon Empress heard that, she couldn't help but support her forehead. She had been happy for nothing. His disciple didn't ask him for help because his disciple had encountered something, but because it was his disciple's younger sister. However, the Moon Empress replied solemnly after hearing Lin Yuan's words. Lin Yuan, don't worry. I'll let Cold Moon do it. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan ordered a platinum divine travel black swallow on Star Web and rode it toward the royal capital. The first thing Lin Yuan did when he returned to the royal capital was to confirm the location of his store. During this time, Lu Jie had found quite a number of locations and sent the detailed information of each place to Lin Yuan. After Lin Yuan finally chose, he found 2 places that were rather good. One of them was the place where Qing Wu had intercepted him when he had wanted to keep the appointment. The other place was in the bustling area of the royal capital and had a very good location. The choice Lin Yuan had to make was to choose a bustling area that was convenient for him to open a store. It had to be a beautiful scenery and a huge area, but it was a relatively remote suburb. As for how to choose, Lin Yuan still had to see the place to be sure. After Lin Yuan confirmed the store's location after returning to the royal capital, he would enter seclusion for a long time. The first thing he had to do was to fuse Chimey with that Twilight Willpower rune and let it evolve into a fantasy breed. Next, Lin Yuan had to put the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee in Red Thorn's digestive cavity and let it hatch. Then Lin Yuan would raise the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee to gold. With such strength, Lin Yuan had the possibility of climbing to the 100th floor of the Star Tower and climbing the Celestial Stairway through the promotion duel. If he climbed the Celestial Stairway and then fought on the Celestial Stairway, he would have a great chance of matching with the Radiance 100 sequence, the pinnacle experts of the Radiance Alliance's younger generation. At the same time, Lu Jie's Insect Queen had been placed in the Pure Land of Bliss in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Over the past few months, the Insect Queen, which had been on the verge of death, had mostly recovered. As long as Lin Yuan spent time healing it for a day or 2, it could fully recover. At that time, Lu Jie could restore his former strength as the Radiance 100 sequence number 39, the Heart of Insect Swarm. At that moment, Lu Jie, who was helping Lin Yuan find the store's location in the royal capital, was standing there confronting someone. Lu Jie, you're really regressing. No matter what, you used to be a member of the Radiance 100 sequence. Now you're actually a Class 2 Creation Master's retainer. A man with a pair of peach blossom eyes roared at Lu Jie, his tone seeming to have indescribable anger. However, before the man with peach blossom eyes could finish speaking, a deep voice came from the side. This voice stopped the man with peach blossom eyes from saying what he wanted to say next. The man with the deep voice turned to look at Lu Jie and said, Lu Jie, Bai Hao has such a bad temper. Lu Jie, Bai Hao is just like a dog. When he found out that you were injured, he searched everywhere for you. But you disappeared without even saying a word, Lu Jie said. Bai Hao snorted and turned his head to avoid looking at Lu Jie. Lu Jie did not expect to encounter a former teammate. Before Lu Jie was injured, Lu Jie, Bai Hao and Wang Fan always went out to train and do missions together. However, Lu Jie knew that he could not recover after being injured, so he was disheartened and left the royal capital. He said goodbye to his former identity as the Radiance 100 sequence number 39, the Heart of Insect Swarm, and became an ordinary down-and-out adventurer. However, Lu Jie, who had always been good-tempered, frowned at Bai Hao's words. While speaking, Lu Jie lowered his head and looked at the Class 2 Creation Master's retainer crest hanging on his chest. While speaking, Lu Jie looked down at the Class 2 Creation Master retainer crest hanging on his chest. 2 months ago, a youth had given him hope of a new life when he was in despair. This hope had allowed Lu Jie to find his value, his dream, his persistence, and his meaning again. Therefore, Lu Jie had sworn with the Willpower rune and offered his future life to become a retainer knight. That was why Lu Jie swore an oath with a Willpower rune to become a retainer knight. Bai Hao gritted his teeth and asked Lu Jie, Has your insect queen been cured? Has your insect queen been cured? Upon seeing Lu Jie shake his head, Bai Hao clapped his hands. Seeing Lu Jie shake his head, Bai Hao clapped his hands. After speaking, Bai Hao pulled Wang Fan, who wanted to say something but hesitated and left. Wang Fan looked at Bai Hao and sighed. He wanted to say something but did not say anything. Bai Hao turned to look at Wang Fan and said very seriously, Don't worry. Bai Hao turned to look at Wang Fan and said in a serious tone. Wang Fan, how much money do you have? Wang Fan took out his Star Web card and handed it over. There should be over 20 million Radiance dollars in the card. Bai Hao said as he took the star web card from Wang Fan's hand. I've saved some money over the past 2 years, and I still have 32 million radiance dollars in my star web card. Including the 20 million radiance dollars in your star web card, we have over 50 million radiance dollars in total. Let's see if we can cure his insect queen. Wang Fan already knew Bai Hao's temper, so he said helplessly. You never know how to speak nicely. You have a sharp tongue but a soft heart. Aren't you afraid that you'll hurt Lu Jia when you clap? Bai Hao immediately stopped talking. After a long while he finally managed to say something. He was the one who hurt me first. He didn't even say anything. He doesn't treat me like a brother at all. Wang Fan was speechless for a moment. When Lu Jia had gotten into trouble, the three of them had pooled money to buy spiritual ingredients for Bai Hao to evolve his fae. Lu Jia no longer had the strength, and the savings in his star web card had all been pooled for Bai Hao. Wang Fan really did not know how he had lived for the past few years. At that moment Wang Fan heard Bai Hao mumble. In the future, before Lu Jia's insect queen is cured, I won't spend a single cent. I'll save it all for his insect queen treatment. Bai Hao had just finished mumbling when he let out a strange cry. Sigh. I can't reward the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess during this period. I don't know if I can keep my position on the leaderboard. Wang Fan rolled his eyes. Why is Bai Hao becoming more and more like a child? He's still watching the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess's live-streaming rewards every day. He's really hopeless. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 163. Lin Yuan sat on the divine travel black swallow's back and endured the feeling of his but being slapped. Lin Yuan could not help but have the thought of nurturing a flying fae for transportation. Lin Yuan's current spiritual energy could form a contract with a normal fae that did not consume much of his spiritual energy. However, Lin Yuan obviously would not leave his contract spot for a flying fae for transportation. Lin Yuan was a creation master. If he nurtured a flying fae from a young age, even if he did not form a contract and could not command the flying fae to fight well, it would not be a problem for it to be used for transportation. Before leaving Redbud City, Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone once. He found that in the past few months, the cinnabar sweet osmanthus in his Spirit Lock spatial zone had grown young and tender new leaves. Lin Yuan was most concerned about the cinnabar osmanthus haworthia. Although it still looked dry, he was pleasantly surprised to find that it had extended its roots and grown on the cinnabar sweet osmanthus's trunk. The cinnabar osmanthus haworthia's current behavior meant that it was starting to recover. The cinnabar osmanthus haworthia was only at gold now. After it recovered, if he could upgrade it to platinum, the cinnabar osmanthus haworthia would grow 1 to 3 fruits. Then the cinnabar osmanthus haworthia could grow 1 to 3 fruits, and he could also rely on eating the cinnabar osmanthus haworthia's fruits to increase his spiritual energy. Lin Yuan sat on the divine travel black swallow's back and looked at the mountains, rivers and white clouds. At first he felt that his heart was broadened, but after looking at it for a long time he did not feel that these mountains and white clouds were very rare. Since Lin Yuan had nothing to do, he took out the insect queen, which had been recovering its damaged roots in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. This journey would take a few days. Lin Yuan thought that the insect queen was about to recover, so he might as well replenish its damaged roots in one go before meeting Lu Jia. In fact, Lin Yuan could heal Lu Jia's source-type life form very well because Lu Jia's contracted source-type life form was the insect queen. If it had been another fae or source-type life form at platinum, Lin Yuan would not have been able to heal it. The insect queen was an extremely special source-type life form. In terms of forming a contract, the insect queen required a lot of spiritual energy, and the contractor could not form a contract with other source-type life forms or faes. This was why Lu Jia had only formed a contract with one fae, which was the insect queen. At the same time, as long as the insect queen's source was damaged, Lu Jia would not have any other faes to use. If another spirit chi professional source was damaged and could not be healed, he or she could still nurture another fae. Although not being able to use a fae would greatly affect one's talent, it wouldn't be to the extent of becoming an ordinary person. On the other hand, the source-type life form Lu of it. Lu had already comprehended the Luo rune, but his head still could not. the rune of the insect dragon and worm insect and insect. Dragon Lu dragon saint, of comma dragon, of li insect not, of e, insect, liang lu wang of lu of e not of, wang rank. Before the insect queen's roots had been damaged, Lu Jia had spent plenty of resources to visit various creation masters in hopes of improving the insect queen's quality. Before the insect queen's source was damaged, Lu Jia had spent a lot of resources to visit creation masters, hoping to raise the insect queen's quality. To the insect queen, all the spirit liquids concocted with spiritual ingredients were not as helpful as pure spirit qi. The insect queen was a life form that required extremely high purity of spirit qi. In an environment with high purity of spirit qi, even if the insect queen was on the verge of death, it could still rely on absorbing high-purity spirit qi to activate its body's hidden powerful self-recovery ability to recover its damaged source and even raise its quality. Without pure spirit qi, even the spirit liquids concocted by the most powerful creation master would not be able to activate the insect queen's hidden powerful self-recovery ability. This was also why Lu Jia had protected Cold Frost City and stalled the dimensional lifeforms for half an hour. After being seriously injured, the Bamboo Monarch, who was one of the 3 Class 5 creation masters, had to make a move. However, it still could not heal the insect queen's damaged source. It was because the Bamboo Monarch had used all kinds of spiritual ingredients to produce spirit qi, which had many medicinal properties that could recover the damaged source. However, these medicinal properties were not of much help to the insect queen's recovery. To the insect queen, the best medicine to recover its source was pure spirit qi. Although the spirit qi in the spirit liquids concocted by the Bamboo Monarch was also very pure, the purity was not enough to activate the insect queen's self-recovery ability. However, when Lin Yuan circulated the spiritual power in his body and transmitted the spirit qi to the insect queen, it was different. Lin Yuan could not produce pure spirit qi. Lin Yuan's ability was to purify the spirit qi in the world into pure spirit qi before injecting it into the phase body. To put it bluntly, Lin Yuan was a spirit qi transporter, but during the transportation process he would make the spirit qi very pure. A purple flesh cocoon appeared in Lin Yuan's hand. Lin Yuan circulated the spiritual power in his body, and a large amount of pure spirit qi was injected into the insect queen through Lin Yuan's hand. This purple flesh cocoon was beating like a heart, and it was like a bottomless pit that was absorbing the pure spirit qi that Lin Yuan transmitted over with an abnormally joyful emotion. 2 days later, Lin Yuan suddenly widened his eyes in shock. This was because he discovered that after the insect queen's damaged roots had recovered, its quality had actually risen from epic to legend. In other words, if Lu Jia combined his willpower rune with the insect queen, it would immediately become a fantasy breed fae. By then Lu Jia would have completely wasted the past 2 years. But compared to the insect queen's evolution into a fantasy breed, the 2 years of neglect were not considered a loss. It could even be said that after 2 years of silence, Lu Jia, who had returned with the platinum/fantasy breed insect queen, could be said to be a phoenix rising from the ashes and soaring into the sky. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check on the insect queen, whose damaged source had completely recovered. Fae name: Insect Queen, Fae species, Silkworm species/Queen insect species, Fae grade. Platinum 4 out of 10. Fae type: Spiritual, Fae quality. Legend abilities: Frowny face bayonet beetle. A small beetle with black hard armor and 6 legs as sharp as blades. Shield ladybug. A large ladybug with thick armor. Its hard carapace can withstand physical and energy damage. Plasma caterpillar. A medium-sized caterpillar that contains a large amount of plasma. The plasma has a numbing effect and high electric shock damage. Lightning gathering moth. A small moth that can quickly gather lightning elements. A large number of lightning gathering moths can gather super powerful lightning cannons. Exclusive skill: Frowny face blast recovery. The insect queen can choose to explode the insects it produces and recover a portion of the energy contained in the exploded insects' bodies. At a glance, Lin Yuan finally understood why Lu Jia could carry a platinum insect queen 2 years ago. He was honored as the Radiance 100 sequence number 39 and was honored as the heart of insect swarm. Baidu read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 164. The Insect Queen's ability acquisition was very special. The Insect Queen wouldn't obtain the corresponding ability like other phase or source-type life forms. The source of the Insect Queen's ability acquisition was to devour an insect species Fae and inscribe the insect species Fae's model into the Insect Queen's body. This insect species Fae that the Insect Queen absorbed would become the Insect Queen's ability. The Insect Queen could consume its body's energy in battle and rapidly reproduce a large number of insect species Faes that were inscribed with the genetic model. It was just like Lu Jie's Platinum Insect Queen's 4 abilities: Bayonet Beetle, Hidden Ladybug, Plasma Caterpillar, and Lightning Gathering Moth. These 4 insect species Faes were the genetic models inscribed in the Insect Queen's body. Lin Yuan could see that Lu Jie had put in a lot of effort to nurture the Insect Queen, especially the combination and selection of the Insect Queen's abilities. Lu Jie didn't choose the insect species Faes that were individually strong. Instead, he chose the insect species Faes that had a relatively simple genetic model and were easy to replicate. At the same time, these insect species Faes with simple genetic models would also cause a qualitative change due to the increase in numbers. The Insect Queen could quickly produce 100 bayonet beetles, which had a very simple genetic model. If a group of bayonet beetles climbed onto another Fae's body, the Insect Queen would be able to produce 100 of them. If a group of bayonet beetles climbed onto another Fae's body, it would be like 6 sharp legs slipping. The Hidden Ladybug was a Fae that was adept at defense. When defending, the Hidden Ladybug would open the insect plates on its back. When a few Hidden Ladybugs opened the insect plates, they would form a solid insect armor wall to protect the Plasma Caterpillar, which was adept at energy attacks but very weak. The Plasma Caterpillar's plasma didn't just have extreme lethality, but it also had a paralyzing effect. The paralyzed phase would suffer the bayonet beetle's merciless attacks. The Lightning Gathering Moth, which was inscribed with the Platinum ability, was an insect species Fae that flew agilely and consumed very little energy. A single Lightning Gathering Moth's lightning attack wasn't strong. However, when a large number of lightning gathering moths gathered together and condensed lightning elemental mana, they could spit out destructive lightning cannons of the same tier, dealing massive damage. Moreover, the plasma from the Plasma Caterpillar could also help the lightning gathering moths gather lightning elements quickly, reducing the charging time for a large group of lightning gathering moths to spit out lightning cannons. It had to be said that Lu Jie's contracted source-type Insect Queen was already equivalent to fighting with a perfect combat system. The combination of the various insect species Faes that the Insect Queen had spawned was like controlling an insect swarm to carry out a battle. Combined with the Insect Queen's exclusive skill, Blast Recovery, it could effectively reduce the Insect Queen's energy consumption. By detonating the severely injured insects, it could recover a lot of energy and produce new insects. On the other hand, Blast Recovery also gave the bayonet beetles, which were large in number but not strong individually, killing power. A single bayonet beetle might not cause much damage when it exploded on another Fae, but when multiple bayonet beetles exploded together, it was enough to severely injure an equal-grade Fae and even threaten its life. Even a defense-type Fae of the same grade might be able to withstand it, but if a hole was blasted open allowing other bayonet beetles to burrow in, it would simply be a nightmare. In Lin Yuan's opinion, as long as any Fae was nurtured in the right way, it would be a nightmare. Even if the nurtured Fae might not be very strong, it would have a different effect in battle. However, the premise of Lin Yuan's idea was to have the ability to circulate spiritual power and evolve Faes like Lin Yuan did. There was still nearly a day's journey to the royal capital, so Lin Yuan took out a Fae that he had harvested in the endless forest from the leaf-shaped diamond Fae storage box. There was still nearly a day's journey to the royal capital, so he took out a Fae that he had plucked in the endless forest from the leaf-shaped diamond Fae storage box. The petite green bamboo snake was extremely fast and adept at using its venomous fangs to cause damage. It was considered a rather good assassin-type Fae. After Lin Yuan took out the green bamboo snake, he circulated the spiritual power in his body. A large amount of pure spirit qi frantically poured into the snake's body to strengthen it. After Lin Yuan took out the green bamboo snake, he circulated the spiritual power in his body. A large amount of pure spirit qi frantically poured into the snake's body to strengthen it. Soon he upgraded the green bamboo snake's quality to bronze/epic. After upgrading the green bamboo snake to bronze/epic, he stored it in the diamond Fey storage box. If Lin Yuan wanted to open a Fey store, he had to sell some high-quality Feys to make a name for himself. To the spirit chi professionals, what could make them crazier than a high-quality bronze Fey? High-grade Feys might be precious, but Lin Yuan might be able to refine high-grade Feys like gold for now, but he would require a lot of energy and time. Enhancing Feys to platinum was something he couldn't do at the moment. When a Fey was at bronze, the higher the quality, the more expensive it would be. Bronze Feys were very cheap at normal and elite. However, if a bronze Fey reached flawless, its price would surpass many low-quality silver Feys. This was because a high-quality bronze Fey would have a higher chance of being promoted to legend in the future. After upgrading to legend, the fusion of the willpower rune would give the Fey a chance to evolve into a fantasy breed. Bronze/epic Feys were the highest quality bronze Feys currently available in the market. Every time an epic bronze Fey appeared, it would be auctioned for a sky-high price in the Star Web's Rare Treasure Pavilion. Spirit chi professionals would always reserve some spiritual energy when contracting Feys and wouldn't use all of it to fully contract the Fey. On the one hand, many Feys would consume a lot of resources to nurture. Even wealthy families wouldn't be able to afford such resources. Rather than wasting resources on 5 Feys, it would be better to gather these resources and nurture 1 main Fey and 2 complementary Feys. On the other hand, the spiritual energy left behind by the spirit chi professionals was used after the willpower rune. Many spirit chi professionals would choose to contract a low-grade, high-quality Fey to nurture again. This was because the lower the grade of the Fey, the higher its talent would be after evolving into a fantasy breed. Therefore, those who really fought for these high-quality, low-grade Feys were mostly experts who had comprehended the willpower rune but didn't have high-quality, low-grade Feys. Perhaps some influential clans wanted to equip their outstanding juniors with high-quality, low-grade Feys so that they would have a huge lead at the starting line. Therefore, whenever a bronze/epic Fey was released, it would cause a lot of people to fight for it. If Lin Yuan released a bronze/legend Fey, the entire Radiance Federation would probably be shaken, and it would cause an intense competition among the major factions. Lin Yuan didn't plan to release a bronze/legend Fey, at least for now. It would take him at least 5 days to evolve a Fey from bronze to legend. In Lin Yuan's opinion, what he needed the most was to increase his spirit chi occupation rank. As long as he increased his spirit chi occupation rank, the Feys he enhanced would become stronger, and his strength would also become stronger. After Lin Yuan enhanced the green bamboo snake, he didn't enhance other Feys and closed his eyes to rest on the divine travel black swallow's back. By the time Lin Yuan woke up, it was already morning. The divine travel black swallow had just arrived at the royal capital. After getting off the divine travel black swallow, Lin Yuan felt that half of his butt was numb. Lin Yuan first called Wuxia and arranged a time to meet in the afternoon. Then he went up the Leaning Moon Mountain and went all the way to the Radiant Moon Palace. After arriving at the Radiant Moon Palace, Lin Yuan saw the silver-robed mystic moon at the entrance. Baiduan read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 165. When he saw that Mystic Moon was sweeping the silver stamen gold luster cache's fallen leaves on the ground in front of the Radiant Moon Palace, Lin Yuan went forward and spoke. Senior Mystic Moon, long time no see. Mystic Moon was originally very happy to see Lin Yuan, but she was shocked by Lin Yuan's words. Xianyu hurriedly took a step forward and bowed. Your Highness, you can't do that. I don't deserve to be called senior by His Highness. Xianyu's voice had always been clear and bright, and her personality was also exceptionally calm. However, when Lin Yuan addressed him as senior, he felt uncomfortable. Lin Yuan shook his head helplessly. The last time Xianyu said the same thing, it made Lin Yuan feel a little uncomfortable. At that moment, Mystic Moon handed him a bottle. Lin Yuan took the bottle and realized that it was filled with silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. This bottle was very big. If this bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was poured out, it would probably be enough to fill 4 to 5 bowls. Lin Yuan raised his brows and looked at Mystic Moon in confusion. Last time I said that I would treat your highness to some silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. After I said that, I went on a mission. Now that it's late autumn and the flowers of the silver stamen gold luster cassia have all grown, I took some and made this bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. I smelled it after it was done. It should be better than cold moons. After saying that, Xianyu laughed heartily. At this moment, Songyu had already left for Redbud City. If Songyu was here, she would definitely expose Xianyu without mercy. In order to personally make this bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, Xianyu had wasted countless silver stamen gold luster cassia flowers. At that moment, Mystic Moon, who was laughing brightly, heard the Moon Empress voice echoing behind him. When the Moon Empress sensed his arrival, she immediately got up and came to the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance. In the end, Mystic Moon handed Lin Yuan a bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. When she saw the bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar in Lin Yuan's hand, she was infuriated. Xianyu, go to Chef Supreme and help me get a spirit-savory pig. Upon hearing the Moon Empress voice, Mystic Moon quickly turned around and bowed. Yes, Moon Empress. I will go immediately. At that moment, Mystic Moon saw that the Moon Empress was holding a crystal bottle that was at least 3 times bigger than his. Although it was called a crystal bottle, it looked like a small bucket. It was filled to the brim with silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. At that moment, Mystic Moon saw the Moon Empress gritting her teeth and glaring at him. Her eyes seemed to be scanning the black dragon shotgun. Mystic Moon was a little confused, but he quickly followed the Moon Empress' gaze and immediately knew what was going on. Xianyu cursed inwardly. She had bumped into the muzzle of a gun. He quickly turned around and went to help the Moon Empress get the spirit-fragrant pig from Chef Supreme. When Lin Yuan saw the Moon Empress, he quickly greeted her. The Moon Empress immediately changed her expression and responded gently. Then he handed over the crystal bottle in his hand, which looked as big as the Mystic Moon, to Lin Yuan and said, "The crystal bottle is already 3 times bigger. This is the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that I personally made. I also added quite a bit of lotus heart dew. It's much better than what Xianyu made." The Moon Empress had already recorded Mystic Moon's name in her notebook. My disciple hasn't been to the Radiant Moon Palace for half a month, and you actually dare to give something to my disciple before me? It's fine if you are giving it, but you actually clashed with my gift. You are truly infuriating me. Can't you give me another chance to show off in front of my disciple? This time, Lin Yuan didn't reject the Moon Empress bottle of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. It wasn't because Lin Yuan wanted to rely on the Moon Empress in the future, but because he had already treated the Moon Empress as a blood relative, bestowed by an elder. He didn't dare to refuse. This itself was a kind of respect and filial piety. However, with so much silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, it was unknown how many osmanthus flowers on the silver stamen gold luster cassia would be consumed. Lin Yuan looked at the silver stamen gold luster cassia on both sides of the Radiant Moon Palace and realized that one of the silver stamen gold luster cassia didn't even have a single silver stamen gold luster cassia. As for the other silver stamen gold luster cassia, there weren't many silver stamen golden luster cassia either. There was only a sparse layer of silver stamen golden luster cassia hanging on its branches. Lin Yuan and the Moon Empress arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace and had a question-and-answer session that they had not done in a long time. Lin Yuan could tell the Moon Empress everything that he did not understand during this period of time. The Moon Empress also answered every question. The Moon Empress' answer was very concise, and every word made Lin Yuan feel enlightened. At the same time, the Moon Empress imparted some new knowledge to him through questions. This question-and-answer session was a little longer than usual, and Lin Yuan had gained a lot through this question-and-answer session. During the question-and-answer session with Lin Yuan, the Moon Empress also sensed his improvement during this period through his questions. After the question-and-answer session, the Moon Empress poured a cup of scented tea for Lin Yuan. "Are you going to develop in the royal capital for the time being?" Lin Yuan nodded. "I wish to open a store in the royal capital to increase my creation master abilities. At the same time, I'm preparing to compete for the Radiance 100 sequence." The Moon Empress smiled after hearing Lin Yuan's words. She was very happy that Lin Yuan was staying in the royal capital. If Lin Yuan stayed in the royal capital, he would not be like Millstone Town or Redbud City, where he would not visit the Radiant Moon Palace for half a month. As a master and a senior, The Moon Empress finally understood why the Bamboo Monarch and the Chef Supreme would always have a smug expression whenever they talked about their disciples. The current Moon Empress was the same. The number of times she smiled when she saw Lin Yuan might be more than in a year. Seeing her disciples' growth made her proud and happy as a master. Since you wish to open a store, how can you do it without an assistant? In a while, you can pick one of the Radiant Moon Palace's spirit attendants to be your store's assistant. They can help you tend to the flowers and plants in the store. All of the Radiant Moon Palace's spirit attendants were prodigies among the creation masters. They were already Class 1 creation masters at such a young age, and the talented ones were even Class 2 creation masters. Such prodigies were to tend to the flowers and plants, it would simply be a waste of resources. Any of the Radiant Moon Palace's spirit attendants could open a store in the royal capital, and after a few years of development, it would be enough for the store to have a great reputation. However, if there was a spirit attendant to take care of the store, it would definitely save Lin Yuan a lot of trouble. The Moon Empress said to Kai Cha, who was brewing tea at the side, "Bring all the spirit attendants to the main palace for this empress. Let Lin Yuan choose his own assistant." Kai Cha quickly responded and went to carry out the task that the Moon Empress gave her. In a short moment, over a dozen spirit attendants wearing light yellow robes were already standing in the main palace. Every spirit attendant's eyes were filled with indescribable anticipation. After hearing about Kai Cha's news, all of the spirit attendants wished to be Lin Yuan's assistant. Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple. Just from the fact that Lin Yuan had been staying in the Radiant Moon Palace for such a long time and the Moon Empress' attitude toward Lin Yuan, it was obvious how much the Moon Empress valued Lin Yuan. Even the two Moon Envoys had to respectfully address Lin Yuan as young lord when they saw him. It could be said that the moment Lin Yuan became the Moon Empress disciple, he was already firmly in the second seat of the Radiant Moon Palace. If they could become Lin Yuan's assistant, their status would be different, and they would be able to override their sisters who were also spirit attendants. In fact, their status in the Radiant Moon Palace might even be on par with the two Moon Envoys. These spirit attendants were all young ladies, and it was obvious that most of them had dressed up meticulously when they came. At this time, Wen Yu was holding a small amber bottle in her hand, but the amber bottle was already empty. At that moment, Wen Yu heard a voice that made her frown. "Why are you standing so close to the front, you sickly invalid? Hurry up and stand at the back." Wen Yu lifted her head and saw that the one who spoke was Jin Qi. "I am standing according to the spirit attendance ranking test sequence last year. Is there a problem?" Jin Qi immediately sneered and said, "In 1 month, it will be this year's spirit attendant ranking test. This year's spirit attendant ranking test will be held in a month. A sickly person like you might not even be able to become an upper spirit attendant, yet you still have the face to stand at the front?" After consuming the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, Wen Yu's damaged roots had been healed, and she had regained her previous talent. In fact, this drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar had improved Wen Yu's aptitude a little. However, Wen Yu didn't tell all of this to her companions, who she had previously treated as sisters. Everything that Wen Yu had experienced during this period of time had made Wen Yu understand that these people in front of her weren't her friends. They weren't worthy of her giving any more feelings. Wen Yu had always been a person who stood aloof from worldly affairs, so she simply walked to the back. However, at that moment, Wen Yu felt that the small amber bottle in her hand was burning hot. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 166. Wen Yu clenched the small amber bottle in her hand tightly. Her heart was filled with indescribable gratitude. Wen Yu knew that the drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar in this small amber bottle had completely changed her fate. If Lin Yuan had not given her this drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, she knew that she was destined to be eliminated in the spirit attendant ranking test and hand over her position to someone else. With the drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that Lin Yuan had given him, he would at least be able to maintain his position as a spirit attendant. Although they wouldn't be able to rank at the top, even if they were ranked last, as long as they were still spirit attendants of the Radiant Moon Palace, they would still be able to rank up. Furthermore, this drop of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar had improved his physique. Every spirit attendant's aptitude was about the same. Wen Yu's strength had only been affected by the damage to her origin. Now that his aptitude had improved a little, he would be able to catch up to the other spirit attendants sooner or later. As Wen Yu walked to the back, she glanced at Xianxia. He discovered that Xianxia was looking at the entrance from the back hall to the main hall with a smile on his face. His face was beaming, and there was an indescribable anticipation in his eyes. Wen Yu could not help but sigh in her heart. Ever since Xianxia knew that the Moon Empress had accepted a disciple who was around the same age as her, she had been having messy thoughts. Wen Yu had also reminded Xianxia, but what she got in return was Xianxia's revenge. Wen Yu knew that no matter which spirit attendant was selected, Xianxia was destined to fail. That was because the conversation that night had been brought to Lin Yuan's ears by Autumn Wind. Even if Xianxia dressed herself up and stood in the second position of the dozen or so spirit servants, she would not be able to do so. Xianxia suddenly spoke to the spirit attendant in front of her when she arrived at the very back of the dozen or so spirit attendants. Pan Yu, why do you have a wilted flower on your head? The spirit attendant named Pan Yu immediately removed the little red flower from her hair. Although it wasn't completely withered, it was still somewhat listless. Pan Yu directly hid the red flower in her sleeve and then said with some annoyance, "I've seen so many flowers, but when I plucked you, you wilted. Shameless thing." When Xianxia looked at Pan Yu, she felt that her entire person had become better. Pan Yu was more beautiful than her and she stood there quietly. But as soon as he opened his mouth and heard Pan Yu's words, it would split open. Why did a beautiful woman have to have a mouth? How could she have been chosen with the way she behaved? Xianxia was now full of confidence in herself. In terms of strength, she could only be ranked second. However, Pan Yu was destined to be incomparable to him when it came to dealing with people. Pan Yu would lose the moment she opened her mouth. At this moment, two figures appeared at the entrance of the rear hall. The woman was dressed in a long robe the color of moonlight. Her expression was cold and her bearing was graceful. The young man was sunny and handsome with a faint smile on his face, making him look especially amiable. As the two figures walked into the main hall of the Radiant Moon Palace, all the spirit attendants bowed in unison. Greetings to the Moon Empress and Lord Lin Yuan. Although the spirit attendants bowed, they knew that if they were chosen, it would be like a carp leaping over the dragon's gate. They would never be the same again. Therefore, when they looked at the ground, their eyes were filled with nervousness and anticipation. Perhaps Lin Yuan was just casually choosing a person and was so indifferent. However, to these spirit attendants, it was considered the greatest opportunity in their lives. The Moon Empress turned to look at Lin Yuan and said softly, "Lin Yuan, choose one yourself. Lin Yuan, choose one yourself. If you feel that one spirit attendant isn't enough, then choose two." The Moon Empress' words made the spirit attendants below delighted, but they immediately heard the young man's reply. "Teacher, I will just choose one." Lin Yuan only wanted to open a store, so one spirit attendant was already enough. If there was another spirit attendant, Lin Yuan felt that it wasn't necessary. The spirit attendants below all lifted their heads. Each of them had a different expression, but all of them had a kind of heartfelt anticipation. Lin Yuan looked at these spirit attendants and realized that among them, the only spirit attendant that he was familiar with and had spoken a few sentences with was the spirit attendant named Wen Yu. Lin Yuan had a rather good impression of Wen Yu, so he simply pointed at Wen Yu. Wen Yu was standing at the back, and when Lin Yuan appeared, her hand that was holding onto the amber bottle tightened. It would be a lie if Wen Yu said that she wasn't nervous, and it would be a lie if she said that she didn't want to be chosen by Lin Yuan. However, at the same time, Wen Yu really wanted to thank Lin Yuan personally. In the past, the person Wen Yu was most grateful to was the Moon Empress, as she had helped Wen Yu establish her life. However, to Wen Yu, Lin Yuan was added to the list. This was because Lin Yuan had saved her established but shattered life, allowing the shattered foundation of her life to become even more solid. Now that Lin Yuan was pointing at her, Wen Yu felt as though all the strength in her body had vanished. Her mind was empty. There was surprise, excitement, and a little disbelief. However, there was an indescribable sense of steadiness. If she became Lin Yuan's assistant, she wouldn't have to thank Lin Yuan anymore. Instead, she would use her actions to repay Lin Yuan's kindness in the process of becoming his assistant. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan pointing at Wen Yu and choosing her assistant, she immediately said, "The chosen one stays behind. The other spirit attendants can go and do whatever they need to do." The other spirit attendants were at a loss because no one had expected Wen Yu to be selected. Among them, the one who was the most shocked was Xianxia. Xianxia had always been very confident in herself. Although she had thought that she might not be selected, she never thought that it would be Wen Yu. But at this moment, Xianxia knew that she didn't even have the right to be jealous. The moment Wen Yu became Lin Yuan's assistant, Lin Yuan's and Wen Yu's statuses were as different as heaven and earth. If Wen Yu wanted to take revenge on him, she could find a reason to expel him from the Radiant Moon Palace. Xianxia felt that all her expectations and fantasies had dimmed. Just as Xianxia walked out of the Radiant Moon Palace in a daze, he heard a voice that could tear him apart. "Find more reasons for everything you do. If you persist, you will become depressed." After hearing the words that made her voice crack, Xianxia turned around and saw the calm Pan Yu. Before Xianxia could get angry, she saw Pan Yu's calm expression and couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you disappointed at all?" Pan Yu rolled his eyes at Xianxia and chuckled. "Disappointed my foot. As long as I can look at those energetic fellows on Star Web, my life will be complete." When Xianxia heard Pan Yu's strange laughter, she felt even worse. After Lin Yuan chose Wen Yu, the Moon Empress gave some instructions and returned to the inner palace. There was nothing the Moon Empress didn't know about in the Radiant Moon Palace, but she had never bothered about Wen Yu's matters. This was because wherever there were people there would be society, and wherever there was society there would be conflicts. This was already the case in a place with ordinary people, let alone in the Radiant Moon Palace where every spirit attendant was a prodigy. The struggles among the spirit attendants had always been a pool of clean water on the surface, but there was a turbulent undercurrent underneath. However, it was precisely because of this that the prodigies could be washed out by the great waves to produce true pillars. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 167. Lin Yuan had lunch with the Moon Empress at noon. After the meal, Lin Yuan took Wen Yu down the leaning moon mountain and prepared to go to the place where he had agreed to meet Wuxia. At that moment, Lin Yuan was fiddling with his phone and preparing to book a flying fei. Without a flying fei that he could ride, it was really inconvenient for him to go anywhere. Just as Lin Yuan was fiddling with his cell phone, Wen Yu tilted her small head and secretly glanced at it, and her eyes lit up. At that moment, Wen Yu said softly, "Your Young Highness, I have ready-made flying feis here. You don't have to book them on the Star Web." After saying that, Wen Yu mobilized her mental power and summoned a large bird that was about 4 meters long and had a wingspan of 6 meters. Lin Yuan saw that this huge bird looked rather handsome. It was covered in pure white feathers that even had a faint luster. This luster looked like scattered sunlight. Lin Yuan used true data to check and found that this large bird was a silver sunlight egret. Among the avian feis, heron feis were relatively rare and they had great potential. When they matured, most of them would have extraordinary combat power. However, there was an exception among the heron species feis, and that was the sunlight egret. The sunlight egret was a fei that did not have much offensive ability. The sunlight emitted from its body could soothe one's mind, and most of the abilities it had comprehended were to increase its speed. The sunlight egret was a very high-quality flying fei that could be ridden. Sunlight egrets were occasionally sold in the treasure pavilion, but they were all bought at a high price. This was because the sunlight egret was very large. At the bronze level it could grow to 2 meters long and its wingspan was 4 meters long. At the silver level, for example, Wen Yu's sunlight egret could grow up to 4 meters long with a wingspan of 6 meters. Very few flying-type silver feis could grow to such a size. If the sunlight egret reached the gold rank, it would not be a problem for it to carry dozens of people on its back. In addition, the sunlight egret had a handsome posture and looked elegant when it flapped its wings. Therefore, the sunlight egret could be considered a luxury flying fei that could be ridden. He did not expect her to contract such a fei. Ordinary creation masters would not choose to contract a sunlight egret if they wanted to nurture it. If a creation master nurtured a flying fei for transportation, it could be piloted perfectly without the need for a contract. After all, the sunlight egret's biggest advantage was that they were good-looking, fast, and good at transportation. It had almost no combat ability, so it would be a waste to contract it. When Wenyu saw that Lin Yuan was observing the sunlight egret, she spoke. Your Highness, this sunlight egret is the first fae I chose when I became a spirit attendant. I don't like to fight and just want to be a good creation master. Therefore most of my contracted fays aren't adept at fighting. Upon hearing her words, Lin Yuan nodded. Everyone had the right to decide the path they wanted to take. Wenyu, who didn't choose the path of a combat class spirit chi professional, was different. Instead he chose to put all his energy into learning as a creation master. His growth as a creation master was much faster than other creation masters who were multitasking. Wenyu had never been good at fighting. Otherwise she wouldn't have been bullied by the other spirit attendants in the Radiant Moon Palace if she had been a little stronger. Seeing that this sunlight egret was already flawless at silver, Lin Yuan could see that Wenyu's talent as a creation master was very powerful. Then let's go. I've long heard that the sunlight egret is a very comfortable flying fae. I haven't sat on one before. Lin Yuan's face revealed a sunny smile. As long as he didn't ride the divine travel black swallow, he was willing to ride any flying fae. He didn't want to experience the feeling of being slapped on the butt for a few days a third time. When Wenyu saw the smile on Lin Yuan's face, her eyes immediately flashed with excitement. And she was indescribably happy that she could help Lin Yuan. When Wenyu's first fae had chosen to contract this sunlight egret, many spirit attendants had laughed at her. This was because most of the other spirit attendants had chosen some fays that were adept at fighting to nurture. Although Wenyu's fae affinity was not as good as those combat class spirit chi professionals, she had a good affinity with flying fays. However, Wenyu's affinity with the flying type fays among the support type fays was also considered pretty good. There were also many fays that were extremely adept at combat. However, apart from this sunlight egret, the other two contracted fays were also fays that were only helpful to creation master's abilities. Nevertheless, she felt that it was the right decision to contract and carefully nurture the sunlight egret. Riding on the sunlight egret's back was really very comfortable. Lin Yuan silently complained. This sunlight egret's comfort level was many times better than the divine travel black swallows. On the sunlight egret's back, Lin Yuan took out his cell phone and flipped to the forum website that he had always visited when he couldn't feel the world's spirit chi. After calculating the time, he realized that it had been nearly 3 months since he had last been on this forum. As a result, he found that he had a lot of unread messages, most of which were from that silly netizen who said he had been bitten by the ghost shadow-bristled spider. Lin Yuan looked at the record. This little netizen wants to argue with me. I'm not Lin Yuan. Weren't you bitten by the ghost shadow-bristled spider? Why are you still so energetic? Aren't you tired of greeting me 3 times a day? I hate spiders the most. No, you said I had to apologize to you. Otherwise, you'd be bitten by the ghost shadow-bristled spider. Lin Yuan secretly raised his brows. Wasn't it just a joke? I haven't logged onto the forum for 3 months and you actually replied within seconds. How much hatred do you have? However, there was no way he would apologize. As for the ghost shadow-bristled spider wanting him, he would have to find it first. Being bitten by the ghost shadow-bristled spider could be considered a form of luck. I'm not Lin Yuan. If you answer my question correctly, I will apologize. I hate spiders the most. Ask. I'm not Lin Yuan. Why can frogs fly? I hate spiders. I'm not Lin Yuan. It's because the frog ate a flying biscuit. I hate spiders. I'm not Lin Yuan. Why can snakes fly? I hate spiders. I'm not Lin Yuan. Because a snake ate a flying frog. I hate spiders. I'm not Lin Yuan. Why can eagles fly? I hate spiders the most, because the eagle ate a flying snake. I'm not Lin Yuan. No. I hate spiders. I'm not Lin Yuan, because eagles can fly. On the other end of the phone, the braised egghead was yelling in anger. She was so angry that she tore off the bee headgear on her head and threw it on the ground. Suddenly, an idea came to her mind. You asked me a question, so I can ask you a question too. I hate spiders the most. If there's an extremely beautiful woman and an extremely ugly woman being kidnapped at the same time, which one do you save? If you and an ugly girl are kidnapped at the same time, which one do you save? The beautiful girl will marry you and the ugly girl will give you 100,000 federal coins. You can only save one. I'm not Lin Yuan. I don't want to answer this question. I hate spiders the most. Hurry up and tell me. I'm not Lin Yuan. It doesn't matter if she's rich or not. I just like ugly ones. I hate spiders the most. Lin Yuan didn't care about the idiotic netizen who claimed to have been bitten by the ghost shadow-bristled spider and immediately logged out of the forum. Baidu immediately read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.